Chapter 663. Is this the primordial abyss? Ning Fan scanned the area with his spirit sense. Below the immemorial abyss, the Yin Qi was extremely dense. It was unknown how many vengeful spirits were born there. Among them, there were no less than 100 void fragmentation realm vengeful spirits. There were even vengeful spirits at the 8 shattering realm among the auras. This place was like a nest of vengeful spirits. Ordinary people would not barge into this place. The chances of him discovering the 5 stages of the immemorial era were slim. There were even fewer who knew that the primordial fisherman's cowhide painting was hidden in the primordial 5 trials. The immemorial fisherman's cowherd painting was the first of the 4 ancient diagrams. It contained the Tao track of life and death. It could help void fragmentation realm cultivators comprehend the Tao and become immortals. The golden sky black map was the second of the 4 ancient maps. It contained the path of Yin and Yang, and could help a perfected immortal break through Yin and Yang to become an immortal emperor. In comparison, the value of the second picture was far above that of the first. There was no shortage of life immortals in the 4 heavens, but there was a shortage of immortal emperors. Naturally, there were far fewer people who valued the first picture. Swordsmanship and the others gradually put away the shocked expressions on their faces. They stared at Ning Fan deeply without saying a word. Ning Fan changed his name to Bai Mu and massacred all the dragons of the Yellow Dragon clan with the help of the dragon's suppressing treasure. Even though Swordsmanship was shocked, he was not afraid. However, Ning Fan had relied on his own strength to destroy the 5 Shatterer of the mountain world. This made Swordsmanship even more fearful. After all, Swordsmanship himself was only a 5 Shatterer. He was silent for a while before he said to the little temptress, "Miss Xiao, those who should be here are already here. Let's kill our way into the vengeful spirit's lair and break through to the position of the first stage of the primordial era. What do you think? Alright, let's move forward together and not split up. If you encounter a powerful vengeful spirit, try not to fight. Avoid it if you can." After that, the little demon girl and Hong Yi took the lead and flew into the primordial abyss. Swordsmanship and the others also flew into the underground abyss. Yunyomu was the only one who cupped his fists at Ning Fan before flying away. Ning Fan was the rain sovereign, and he was also his master. Thus, he naturally could not be rude to him. After the crowd of people left, Ning Fan shook his cauldron ring and summoned Nie Li. Then he rode Nie Li into the underground abyss. The underground abyss was so deep that they could not see the bottom of it. After everyone flew into it, there were immediately 7 to 8 void fragmentation realm vengeful spirits and hundreds of void refinement realm vengeful spirits attacking them with ghostly roars. Behind this batch of vengeful spirits, there were still countless vengeful spirits. Swordsmanship took out an iron fan magic treasure and fiercely fanned at the many vengeful spirits. In an instant, countless vengeful spirits were fanned into ashes. This fan could actually emit Yin winds that could shatter 2 wind tribulations. Sword demon Gong Yangzi took out a dark green flying sword. There was some hair growing on the hilt of the sword, and it had eyeballs. It was very strange. The flying swords multiplied into millions, and countless vengeful spirits died under the sword light. Patriarch Enigma Flame sprayed out a yellow mist from his nose. The yellow mist pervaded the entrance of the primordial abyss. Any vengeful spirit that came into contact with the yellow mist would be incinerated to death. Yunyomu's hands were intertwined with the Tao thread of life and death. From time to time, he would use the Tao thread to kill the resentful spirits. With his current cultivation base, he could only kill vengeful spirits below the void fragmentation realm instantly. He would not be able to instantly kill vengeful spirits that were at the void fragmentation realm. Among these 7 to 8 void fragmentation realm vengeful spirits, the strongest one among them was only at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The 4 of them attacked aggressively and killed all of the vengeful spirits very quickly. However, as they flew further down, more vengeful spirits attacked them. This time, there were more than 10 vengeful spirits in total. The strongest among them had even reached the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Even Swordsmanship would not be able to kill vengeful spirits with such a cultivation base, let alone Gong Yangzi, Yunyomu and Yunyomu. "Husband, it's time for us to take action." The little demoness giggled at Ning Fan. Then, she raised her palm towards one of the 5 broken vengeful spirits. A strange black hole rose from the center of her palm. The black hole produced a boundless suction force. Countless vengeful spirits were sucked into the black hole and died while screaming. Even a 5 broken vengeful spirit was instantly killed by her. In just an instant, more than half of the vengeful spirits were killed by her. This technique was called the annihilation technique. It was a great ability recorded in the Void scripture. Ning Fan looked at the little demonist's palm. His eyes flashed, but he did not say anything. He stood on top of the Sinli mountain and performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers. Countless golden vortexes immediately appeared below him, sucking countless vengeful spirits into the vortex heavenly hole. As soon as the vengeful spirits below the void fragmentation realm entered the vortex heavenly hole, they immediately turned into pus and blood and died. The blood was absorbed by the heavenly hole, increasing the power of the vortex heavenly hole bit by bit. The last 5 broken vengeful spirit was also sucked into the vortex heavenly hole. It would naturally die in 2 hours. At the moment Ning Fan kept the 5 broken vengeful spirits, He Shirxiu, Gong Yangzi and Xianhou were shocked. They realized that Ning Fan's spatial vortex technique was extremely terrifying. They could not withstand this ability. Zili, you will kill the rest of them. Under Ning Fan's command, the Sinli mountain immediately flapped its wings. Countless dark purple wind blades killed all the void fragmentation realm vengeful spirits. The ferocity of the Sinli mountain shocked He Shirxiu and the others once again. Similarly, none of them could withstand the wind blades. Hongyi slightly raised her eyebrows. When Ning Fan left the Endless Sea, he had just attained the Void Glimpse stage. Now, however, he had already reached such a level. Even she could not help but admire Ning Fan's monstrous cultivation speed. My little Fan is really powerful. Be careful. We have already reached the depths of the nest of vengeful spirits. There are 8 broken Void Realm beings coming. Don't get caught up in the fight. Breakthrough. At the bottom of this abyss, there was a passage that led straight to the underground. Outside the passageway, there were more than 80 Void Fragmentation Realm vengeful spirits and thousands of Void Refinement Realm vengeful spirits. Among them, there were 2 vengeful spirits. One of them charged at Ning Fan while the other one charged at He Shirxiu and the others. 8 broken resentful spirits, Ning Fan's eyes were extremely solemn. This level of vengeful spirit was comparable to the sect masters of the 3 realms. It was not something he could defeat. Just as he was thinking about how to avoid the vengeful spirit's attack, a red-clothed figure suddenly appeared in front of him. With a wave of her hand, a lightning whip lashed towards the vengeful spirit. As the Thunder Sovereign, Hongyi was extremely powerful. Although she was at the peak of the 7th Shatterer level, ordinary 8th Shatterers might not even be a match for her. The vengeful spirit in front of him was also slightly weaker than Red Spectre. However, Hongyi did not have the confidence to kill this vengeful spirit. As the whip lashed down, the 10,000 lightning annihilation only managed to push the 8 shattering vengeful spirit back slightly. That was enough. Seizing the opportunity when the resentful spirits were repelled, the little demoness, Hongyi and Ning Fan quickly broke through the encirclement of the resentful spirits and rushed into the passageway. Once they entered the tunnel, there were no more vengeful spirits to bother them. As for Ning Fan, he kept Nieli away again. Ning Fan is really lucky. Someone is helping him to block the tribulation. He Shirxiu's eyes turned gloomy. Both of them were being targeted by the vengeful spirit. Ning Fan had someone to help him, but he did not. He Shirxiu was far from being a match for the vengeful spirit. Looking at the vengeful spirit which was charging at him with its bloody mouth wide open, he gritted his teeth and took out a jade talisman, throwing it at the vengeful spirit. He only had one jade talisman. It was a life-saving item given to him by the Jade Dao sect. This jade talisman could be used to launch an attack of a rogue immortal realm cultivator. However, each talisman could only be used once. As soon as the jade talisman was used, it immediately turned into a destructive jade-colored sword light, cutting the vengeful spirit into 2. However, He Shirxiu did not feel happy at all. Instead, he felt his heart ache. Before entering the 5 stages of the immemorial time, he had already used up his life-saving item. This trip is going to be dangerous. After killing the vengeful spirit, Xiao and the others took the opportunity to break through the barrier and rushed into the underground passageway. The two sides of the passageway were made of bronze walls. Below their feet were blue stone stairs which extended all the way to the bottom. The vengeful spirits probably did not dare to enter the passageway, because they felt that it was extremely dangerous. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief when he reached this place. Everyone walked down the stairs. After walking for an unknown period of time, they finally reached the end of the passageway. At the end of the passageway was a bronze palace. On the other side of the palace, there was a gigantic door. Beside the gigantic door, there were 5 smaller light doors with different colors. From the left to the right, they were gold, green, blue, red and yellow respectively. This is the first stage of the immemorial time. The first stage is called the stage of 5 elements. The 5 light doors beside the gigantic door are the passageways of the 5 elements. As long as someone successfully passes through one of the passageways, the gigantic door will remain open for a short period of time. If one isn't proficient in the 5 elements technique, he or she will most likely die if he or she enters the 5 elements passageways. Let's leave this stage to those who are proficient in the 5 elements technique. Big Sister Hong-yi, why don't you go and enter the metal passageway? The little demoness looked at Hong-yi with a smile. Hong-yi was proficient in lightning techniques. Lightning was of the metal element. Thus, she was the most suitable candidate to enter the metal passageway. As long as Hong-yi could break the metal passageway, the gigantic door would open and the others would be able to pass through it safely. All right. Hong-yi did not say anything else. She took a step forward and turned into a ray of blood-red lightning, flying into the metal passageway. Hidaozi, who is going to pass the stage on your side? The little demoness eyes fell upon Xianhua, thinking that Xiao would most likely send this person. Fellow Daoist Xianhua, you are proficient in the fire technique. Please go and enter the fire passageway. As expected by the little demoness, Xiao really sent Xianhua. Haha, don't worry Daozi. My cultivation base might not be the highest in the fire world, but my understanding of the Tao of fire is much deeper than some of the fire sovereigns. It won't be difficult for me to break the fire passageway. Xianhua laughed. With a flash, he turned into a ray of fiery light and flew into the fire passageway. The little demoness looked at Ningfan playfully, and said with a faint smile, "Husband, are you going to flirt with me here or are you going to enter the fire passageway?" She knew that Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had a treasure called the Steel of Sun and Moon which could restrain all flames. It was located in the profound Yin world. Since Ningfan had obtained the inheritance of Ancient Chaos, he naturally had this treasure. Thus, there was almost no danger in entering the fire passageway. His chances of passing through the fire passageway would certainly be much higher than Xianhua. Does Miss Xiao not trust the helper that I invited? Fellow Taoist Xianhua has already entered the fire passageway. Why do you still want fellow Taoist Ning to enter? Xiao's face twitched. No. One more person means one more force, isn't it? Miss Xiao is right. If that's the case, please enter the fire passageway, fellow Taoist Ning. Xiao let out a hollow laugh. Inwardly, he felt a little unhappy. Ningfan ignored Xiao and walked towards a light door step by step. That light door was not the light door of the fire passageway. What he wanted to enter was not the fire passageway, but the water passageway. Oh. Little Fanfan's actions are always beyond my expectation. Is he going to enter the water passageway? That makes sense. Ancient Chaos Yin and Yang, cultivating both ice and fire, his ability to restrain water is not small. The little demoness pondered. The water passageway? Is he going to court his death? Those who are not proficient in water techniques will most likely die if they enter the water passageway. Xiao's eyes widened. He couldn't figure out why Ningfan wanted to enter the water passageway. He had heard that Ningfan had a type of devil fire ability. He only knew that Ningfan was proficient in fire techniques, but he had never heard that Ningfan was proficient in water techniques. He naturally didn't know that Ningfan didn't enter the water passageway to pass the trial, but to cultivate the water element physique of the minor 5 elements physique. Ning Fan could feel the extremely strong power of the 5 elements in the 5 elements passageway. He wanted to try and see if he could cultivate the minor 5 elements to perfection in the passageway. Such cold rain. Ning Fan flew into the water passageway. What he saw was a boundless snowfield. Above the snowfield, there was a drizzle. There was snow under his feet and rain above his head. This place was very cold, but the rain had not turned into ice yet. Therefore, there was still rain intent in the rain. The rain had an invisible lethality. If one wasn't proficient in the rain technique, they would be severely injured by the rain. Ning Fan had refined a lot of cold qi and had the minor 5 elements physique. Although his water body wasn't perfect, it could be considered as having some defense against water. Step by step, he walked on the snowfield, spreading his spirit sense far away. On this snowfield, there were countless snow beasts. After noticing that Ning Fan had intruded into this world, countless snow beasts immediately attacked him. These snow beasts varied in strength. The weakest among them was at the divine transformation realm, while the strongest had even reached the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan spread his sword sense. Large groups of low-grade snow beasts died under his sword sense and turned back into white snow. Each of the snow beasts had a water crystal inside their bodies. After they died, the crystals fell on the snowfield. Ning Fan kept those water crystals away one by one. As for the void fragmentation realm snow beasts, they were all kept into the vortex cave. 2 hours had already passed. The 5 resentful spirits had already turned into a pool of thick blood. When the void fragmentation realm snow beasts were sucked into the vortex cave, they did not turn into blood. Instead, they turned into snow water. This snow water was just ordinary water. However, the water crystals inside the bodies of the snow beasts were extraordinary. Ning Fan took out the crystals from the vortex cave and studied them carefully. These water crystals contained extremely strong water elemental power. Water could turn into mist, rain, snow, ice, river, and ocean. The highest virtue was like water. Water was good and beneficial to all living beings. Therefore, it was similar to the Tao. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the snowfield, refining the water crystals one by one. The progress of his water elemental physique to perfection was increasing bit by bit. After refining all of the crystals, it had already reached 4%. Ning Fan stood up and walked forward. Whenever he encountered snow beasts, he would kill them and obtain the water crystals to refine them. His water elemental physique gradually increased. 5%, 6%, 7%. 10 days later, his water elemental physique had reached 100% and reached perfection. The perfection of his water elemental physique also gave his physical body a significant improvement. Even though his water elemental physique had reached perfection, his ancient devil cultivation base had yet to break through the bottleneck of the revered devil realm. When he was halfway through the water passage, he suddenly halted his footsteps. There were still snow beasts with 6 broken realm cultivation bases in front of him. Unless he can defeat these snow beasts, he would not be able to break through the trial of water. Ning Fan shook his head. He firmly believed that Hong Yi would be able to pass the trial of metal. There was no need for him to take the risk and fight against the 6 broken realm snow beasts, just to pass the trial. There were more than 6 broken realm snow beast. Even if he releases Nieli, he might not be able to guarantee that Nieli would be injured. It was not worth it. He walked back step by step. Sometimes he would look at the rain in the sky and sometimes he would look at the snow under his feet. Ice was formed by water, and it was colder than water. However, under the effect of a great divine ability, water might be even colder than ice. Fog, rain, snow, and ice. The difference between them was the difference in intent. River, lake, and sea. The difference between them was the difference in momentum. The Tao of water was the cultivation of intent and momentum. Ning Fan was enlightened and walked out of the passage of water. Then he stepped into the passage of earth. The little demoness was stunned. She then understood something and looked at Ning Fan's back with a smile. I initially thought that my husband entered the passage of water to pass the trial. I didn't expect my guess to be wrong again. He Shirshio looked at Ning Fan's back with a puzzled expression. He entered the passage of water first, and then the passage of earth. What is he doing? Inside the passage of earth, there was a boundless desert in front of him. If he wasn't an expert in the earth technique, he would probably be severely injured by the sand blowing on his body. There were also countless earth beasts in the desert. There were earth crystals in the bodies of these earth beasts. These earth beasts did not take the initiative to attack Ningfan. Instead, they turned into stone and piled up into a mountain. When a group of earth beasts turned into mountains, an unimaginable earth force pressed down on Ningfan's head. In an instant, Ningfan's knees sunk deep into the desert. His expression was extremely solemn. The Tao of Earth is different from that of water. It focuses on momentum instead of intent. Earth elemental cultivators are good at defending their momentum, but they are better at attacking with great momentum. Break. The devil chi in Ningfan's right eye soared to the sky. In an instant, a huge devil mountain rose under his feet, and he was standing on the peak of the devil mountain. Standing on the peak of the devil mountain, he controlled the momentum of the devil mountain. The momentum of the earth beasts was not worth mentioning as they crumbled one after another. Destroy. His sword sense swept across the area. A large number of earth beasts began to fall and turned back into soil, leaving behind earth crystals. Chapter 664. Ningfan kept the pieces of earth crystals and slowly refined them. His earth elemental physique's perfection rate began to rise slowly. 1%, 2%, 3%, he stood up and walked forward. There were a lot of earth beasts in the desert. As soon as they saw him, they immediately attacked him. Ningfan continued to kill and refine the earth crystals along the way. 10 days later, his earth elemental physique was perfected. He stood on top of the devil mountain formed by devil chi, his eyes as deep as a lake. He raised his hand and picked up a grain of sand from the desert. He was silent for a while. If the mountain did not move, it would have power. The soil was thick and heavy, so it was powerful. If one has a deep understanding of the general trend, a speck of dust in his hand would be enough to fill up the ocean. This is the Tao of Earth. Step by step, he walked out of the passage of earth and entered the passage of metal. There seems to be some changes in little Fan. Little demon girl's eyes flashed as if she was deep in thought. Within the passageway of metal, below was the Saber Mountain Sword Domain, and above was a boundless sea of lightning. Walking in the Blade Mountain Sword Domain, the dense metal chi was enough to cut open the skin of an ordinary void fragmentation realm expert. However, it could not hurt Ningfan, who had a strong physical body. Ningfan flew into the sea of lightning. The lightning here was strong enough to kill void fragmentation realm experts who had yet to master the Tao of lightning. However, it could not hurt him who had condensed the Tai Su lightning star. If the metal condenses, it becomes the weapon. If the metal scatters, it becomes the lightning. The Tao of metal emphasized on the mind, and one must be sharp and fierce in order to unleash the greatest might of the metal element divine ability. Goldmane attack. Ningfan's eyes looked into the distance. Occasionally, there would be some lightning beasts attacking him from afar. There were not as many thunder beasts here as there were in the water and earth passages. It was most likely because Hong-Yi had killed many thunder beasts when she passed through this passage. Ningfan was least afraid of lightning beasts. He stepped on the Grand So lightning diagram and flew all the way. Whenever he encountered lightning beasts, he would collect them all. Even if he encountered void fragmentation realm lightning beasts, he would kill them all. Lightning beasts below the level of 5 fragmentation couldn't stand up to the might of the Tai Su lightning diagram. Ningfan collected the golden crystals one by one and sat down in the sky with his legs crossed to refine them. After refining it, he continued onward, killing the lightning beasts and collecting the crystals. 10 days passed, and the metal elemental constitution was finally perfected. At this point, the lesser 5 elements body had been cultivated to the perfect state. With Ningfan's current cultivation base and the perfected minor 5 elements physique, he was strong enough to shatter any magical technique of the 5 elements that was below the 5th element. With the breakthrough of the lesser 5 elements constitution, his physical body realm finally showed signs of breaking through. Ningfan leaped into the air and sat cross-legged in the sea of lightning. His body was glowing with the light of the 5 elements. Essence chi swirled around his body, and his essence chi began to change. That transformation was to transform the cycle of essence qi into Yuanhui essence qi. Ning Fan withdrew his essence qi and stood up. Then he shook his head helplessly. Returning to the primordial qi was extremely time-consuming. Although he was able to break through to the revered devil realm, he did not have enough time to return his essence to the primordial qi. The 5 elements have been perfected. I've gained quite a lot from this first test. Just as Ning Fan was thinking about that, the metal passage suddenly shook violently. A ray of golden light flashed and Ning Fan was immediately teleported out of the metal passage. Similarly, the mystic flame was teleported out of the fire passageway. My husband has been teleported out. Hee, looks like Sister Hong Yi has succeeded in passing the trial. The little demon girl giggled. In the bronze palace, the originally closed giant gate was slowly opening. On the other side of the giant gate, Hong Yi's pretty face was cold. She said indifferently to everyone. The metal trial has been broken. Let's go to the next trial. Damn it. I was obviously just a little bit away from breaking the fire trial. Mystic Flame's expression was a little indignant. No one knew if what he said was true or not. Ning Fan did not believe that the Mystic Flame could break the fire trial. Mystic Flame's cultivation base was just at the 4th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. There must be many fire beasts in the fire trial. Most of them were at the 6th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. This trial was not something that the Mystic Flame could break. Hong Yi breaking the trial was within Ning Fan's expectation. Hee, Sister Hong Yi is really amazing. Little Fan, let's go to the next trial. He Daozi will be going first. The little demoness grabbed Ning Fan's hand and pulled him into the giant door. He Shirshio's expression changed. Then he smiled at the Mystic Flame. Fellow Taoist Mystic Flame, you don't have to worry about it. Isn't it the same no matter who breaks the trial? As long as we can break the 5 ancient trials and obtain the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting, it will be enough, isn't it? You're right, Daozi. The group of them followed Ning Fan and the others into the giant gate. Behind the giant gate was a scarlet copper palace. After everyone entered the scarlet copper palace, the giant gate of the palace was closed. On the other side of the palace, there was also a giant gate made of scarlet copper. Beside the giant door, there were 4 smaller doors of light, each of which was of a different color: green, white, red, black. The second trial of the ancient times is called the 4 Symbols Pass. In the 4 Symbols Pass, there are the illusionary spirits of the 4 beasts: the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. This trial can only be broken by force. As soon as the little demon girl finished speaking, she looked at Ning Fan and then at Hong Yi. Finally, she looked at He Shirshio and said with a meaningful smile, "This trial needs to be broken by force. Originally, it should be broken by those with a higher cultivation base, as they would have a higher chance of winning. However, little Fan is so powerful. It should be easy for him to break the Azure Dragon Pass. Sister Hong Yi has just broken the first trial, and she needs to take a good rest. If He Daozi is willing, you can also take a rest in the Scarlet Copper Palace. No need. There are also people on our side who are breaking the trial. Who knows, they might be faster than fellow Taoist Ning. Fellow Taoist Gong Yangzi, how about you break the Vermilion Bird Pass?" He Shirshio said with a smile. "Alright. I have the feather-slashing sword in my hand. It won't be difficult for me to break the Vermilion Bird Pass," Gong Yangzi said confidently. He was called the Sword Demon in the Sword World. Apart from his treacherous and ruthless character, it was also because he had the feather-slashing sword, which was very destructive to the demon beasts of the bird race. He could even fight against a winged demon at the 5 Shattering Realm. If he were to fight against a winged demon at the 4 Shattering Realm, he could kill it with a single strike. Gong Yangzi did not say much. He turned into a ray of light and flew into the Vermilion Bird Gate. Not long after he entered, a miserable shriek came from inside the light gate. Then Gong Yangzi rushed out with his face covered in blood. The feather-slashing sword was broken into 2. "I can't beat it. I can't beat it. There's a vermilion bird at the 8 Shattering Realm inside the gate," Gong Yangzi said with a frightened expression. 8 Shattering Vermilion Bird. He Shirshio's eyes widened. Then he shook his head and said, Since it's an 8-shattering vermilion bird, it's reasonable for fellow Taoist Gong Yangzi to be defeated. You don't have to worry about it. How could he Shirshio not worry about it even though he said so? Out of the 3 helpers he invited, 2 of them were not of any help. One of them spent a month in the fire pass without breaking through while the other one was blasted out by the 8-shattering vermilion bird in the vermilion bird pass. It seems like I'll have to rely on the people on the little demonist side if I want to break through the 4 symbols pass. Hong Yi's full strength was enough to defeat the 8-shattering ferocious beasts. She was an expert in the Tao of lightning. Lightning was of the metal attribute and metal was the bane of wood. The Azure Dragon was of the wood attribute. She had a great chance of breaking through the Azure Dragon Pass. I'll take action and break through the Azure Dragon Pass. Hong Yi gently moved sideways and shielded him behind her. Her actions were very skillful. When she was still his companion, she had been taking care of him and protecting him every day. She was already used to it. She did not know that he had a dragon subduing treasure. At first, she thought that the demon beasts in the 4 symbols pass would at most be at the 5-shattering realm or 6-shattering realm. Even if Ning Fan enters the Azure Dragon Pass, he would still be able to put up a fight. After Gong Yangzi found out the true cultivation base of the vermilion bird, Hong Yi naturally would not let Ning Fan face the 8-shattering Azure Dragon. That would be courting death. She would not watch Ning Fan die. Don't worry, Sister Hong Yi. Little Fan Fan is very capable. You don't know this, but he has already killed 4 loose demon yellow dragons. A mere 8-shattering Azure Dragon is nothing to him. The little demon girl giggled and explained. He killed 4 loose demon yellow dragons? Hong Yi's blood-red eyes were slightly shocked. She did not believe it. Loose demons were already the peak experts in the 9 worlds. Even in the demon world, there were only 3 of them. Ning Fan's cultivation base was only at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. How could he have the strength to kill a loose demon? Even though Hong Yi knew that Ning Fan was strong, she could not believe that he could kill a loose demon. After all, it sounded too absurd. It was as absurd as a harmonious spirit realm cultivator killing a void fragmentation realm cultivator. Don't worry. I'll be back soon. Ning Fan flashed a smile at Hong Yi with some gratitude. Even though this lady pretended to be cold, she had been secretly protecting him. How could he not see it? Ning Fan's body swayed and turned into a ray of black light, flying into the Azure Dragon Light Gate. Inside the Light Gate was a battlefield with towering ancient trees. Each of the ancient trees was so tall that they reached the sky. In the forest, there was an illusory 8-shattering Azure Dragon. That Azure Dragon was 400,000 zhang in size. As soon as it saw Ning Fan entering the gate, its eyes flashed with a hint of disdain. 2-shattering. Die. It roared at the sky. Its aura force swept across the area, breaking countless ancient trees. It looked at Ning Fan as if it was looking at a dead man. It was an 8-shattering Azure Dragon while Ning Fan was a 2-shattering Azure Dragon. Naturally, it would not put Ning Fan in its eyes. However, at the next moment, an extremely sharp purple ray of light easily penetrated its dragon body, shattering the demon core inside its body. It stared at Ning Fan with disbelief and fear. Then it fell headfirst into the dense forest. Ning Fan held the Taigong fishing rod in his hand. Looking at the Azure Dragon that could not even withstand a single blow, he sighed. So what if the dragon was at the 8-shattering realm? If I encounter my nemesis, I might still die even if my cultivation base is much higher than my opponent. The more powerful the dragons that Ning Fan killed, the more cautious he became. He did not have any arrogance or complacency. He could rely on the ability of the Taigong fishing rod to kill dragons who were at a higher level than him. It was hard to guarantee that no one could kill him with a secret treasure. On the path of cultivation, the last thing one should do was to underestimate one's opponent. Zili, this Azure Dragon is for you to eat. Remember to eat it elegantly. Ning Fan kept the dragon blood into the blood gourd and shook his cauldron ring to summon Nieli. Then he gave a good dragon corpse to Nieli to devour. Nieli's purple eyes were stunned. It seemed like she did not understand Ning Fan's order. Eat elegantly? What does eating elegantly mean? As if he saw Nieli's doubt, Ning Fan added. It means don't chew the corpse in big mouthfuls. Use your demon power to refine the dragon corpse before eating it. Just eat the essence. Shriek. Zeely let out a low cry obediently and breathed out streams of purplish-black chi at the dragon corpse. Gradually, the dragon corpse disappeared and was replaced by a green light pearl. It was the essence of the corpse that was refined from the dragon corpse. Nieli swallowed the green light pearl in one gulp and looked at Ning Fan in satisfaction. His eyes were filled with endless gratitude. If I feed you more corpses of experts at the 7th, 8th and 9th break realm, you will break through to the 7th break realm sooner, right? Ning Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. He kept Nieli back into his storage pouch and slowly walked out of the Azure Dragon light door. From the time he killed the Azure Dragon to when Nieli devoured the corpse and returned to the Scarlet Copper Palace, it had only taken him less than 100 breaths. The door of the Scarlet Copper Palace was slowly opening. When Hong Yi saw this scene and Ning Fan walking out unscathed, her blood-red eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. How did you do it? What she wanted to ask was, of course, how did Ning Fan surpass the 6th heavenly layer and kill the 8-break Azure Dragon? I have a treasure that specializes in dealing with the dragon race. Ning Fan did not hide anything from her. After all, there were quite a number of people who knew about it, right? You should have told me earlier. Hong Yi frowned. She was actually a little angry. She was worried about Ning Fan for nothing. Ning Fan actually did not tell her about this technique in advance. Let's go to the next stage. She took the lead and stepped into the giant scarlet copper door. Ning Fan was stunned. He did not understand why Hong Yi was angry. The little demoness, on the other hand, looked at Hong Yi playfully and then at Ning Fan. She stood on her tiptoes and moved her face close to Ning Fan's ear. She breathed out a fragrant breath and teased him. Does she like you too? My good husband. Without waiting for Ning Fan's answer, she directly followed Hong Yi into the next palace. Ning Fan shook his head and did not take her words to heart. He did not think that the dignified and arrogant Thunder Sovereign Buzhou would like him. He followed closely behind the little demoness and entered the next palace. He Shirxiu and the others also stepped through the giant door. After everyone entered, the giant scarlet copper door closed. The third palace was the Black Copper Palace. At the other end of the palace, there was a giant black copper door. Beside the giant door, there were only 2 smaller doors made of light. One was black and the other was white. The third stage of the ancient times, the stage of yin and yang. Isn't yin and yang the same as yin and yang? There's nothing much to explain. Hee, be a good fan, take out your yin yang Dragon Ball. This round it's up to you. Chapter 665. Ning Fan nodded and walked towards the 2 light doors alone. He stared at the black and white doors silently with a slight frown on his face. After a long time, he raised his hand and pointed at them. The 2 light doors flashed and disappeared. A third light door appeared in its place. It was intertwined with black and white light. So this is the real light door to pass the third test. Little demoness' black eyes were solemn. From the looks of it, the 2 light doors at the beginning were fake. If one wasn't a cultivator who had just comprehended the yin-yang realm, they wouldn't be able to see the true passageway of this test. At least, little demoness and Hong Yi couldn't see it. As for He Shirxiu and the others, they couldn't see it at all. He Shirxiu and the others' eyes changed. If Ning Fan wasn't here, they would definitely enter one of the fake black and white doors. The consequences of entering the fake door would most likely be very dangerous. Ning Fan didn't say much. He patted his storage pouch and 2 black and white lights flew out from it. They turned into Yin Pearl and Yang Pearl and circled around Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan stepped into the third light door and walked down the passageway. When he reached the end of the passageway, a chaotic void suddenly appeared in front of him. The void was filled with black and white stars, giving Ning Fan an extremely dangerous feeling. The white stars were moving along their paths while the black stars were hovering in the air. Each of the white stars contained a trace of yang power, while the black stars contained yin power. Ning Fan could see some clues. If he stepped into the void, he would immediately be attacked by all the stars. These stars weren't huge, but if they fell down, they would probably have the power of the 8 shattering strike. The reason why it was so powerful was because the stars here contained yin and yang power. At the end of the void, there was an exit. Once he passed through it, he would be considered to have passed the test. From the entrance to the exit, there were a total of 49 golden lotus seats for people to stand on. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. If he didn't have the yin-yang dragon pearl to protect him, he really wouldn't dare to go through this test. But now he could give it a try. He took a step into the void and leaped onto the first lotus seat. Among the stars in the sky, a white star immediately fell from the sky. The impact was enough to severely injure a 7-break cultivator and kill a 6-break cultivator. Without saying a word, he lifted his finger and pointed at the white star. The yang pearl immediately turned into a ray of white light and shot towards the white star. As the dragon pearl and the star collided, a few cracks appeared on the star, and it was sent flying, but it continued to fall. Ning Fan flicked his finger again and controlled the yang pearl to continuously attack the star. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he finally shattered the star. After destroying the star, a trace of yang power flowed into his body. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, he immediately sat down cross-legged and began to refine the yang power. After a long time, the yang power was completely refined. Ning Fan's magical power increased by 1 yuanhui and his yin-yang transformation cultivation method also improved a little. I didn't know there would be such a benefit after shattering the stars here. But it's too time-consuming to shatter a star. Ning Fan stood up and leaped onto the second lotus throne. As soon as he took a step forward, 2 black stars fell from the sky. It seemed that every time he reached the next lotus platform, there would be an additional star attacking him. Ning Fan immediately activated the yin pearl to counter the attack. After the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn, he managed to destroy 2 stars and obtain 2 traces of yin power. When he stepped onto the third lotus throne, 3 white stars fell from the sky. When he stepped onto the fourth lotus throne, 4 black stars fell from the sky. When he arrived at the 8th lotus throne, he had already destroyed 36 stars. 1 day had passed. On the second day, Ning Fan reached the 11th lotus throne. On the third day, Ning Fan reached the 14th lotus throne. On the 4th day, Ning Fan reached the 16th lotus throne. On the 5th day, Ning Fan reached the 18th lotus throne. The further he went, the more stars would attack him at the same time. Ning Fan's speed became slower and slower. On average, he could only walk past 2 lotus thrones every day. On the 10th day, Ning Fan reached the 30th lotus throne. From now on, there were too many stars that Ning Fan needed to deal with. Hence, he could only walk past 1 lotus throne every day. 1 month later, Ning Fan reached the exit of the void space. All the stars in the sky had been destroyed by him. He had destroyed a total of 1,225 stars. His magic power had increased by 1,000 yuanhui. His cultivation method of the yin-yang transformation had also reached the 3rd level of the 3rd layer. The moment he walked out of the exit of the passage, the giant door of the black copper palace opened. Ning Fan sighed with emotion. Without the protection of the yin-yang dragon pearl, he certainly would not dare to face the attacks of any of the stars head-on. Moreover, the chance of passing this trial was really slim. My husband really didn't let me down. The 3rd trial is so difficult, but you still managed to pass it. The little demoness purposely looked at Ning Fan with eyes full of admiration. Ning Fan shook his head helplessly and ignored her. His eyes swept across the 4th palace. The 4th palace was a purple copper palace. Beside the giant purple copper door, there were 2 light doors. Both of them were purple in color. Purple mist could be seen lingering in the light doors. This is the 4th trial of the ancient times, the trial of 7 emotions and 6 desires. The light door on the left is the 7 emotions light door, while the light door on the right is the 6 desires light door. Jiha's heart is pure and clear. Moreover, she is born with a bewitching physique. Her resistance to desires is much stronger than others. If she is here, forget it. None of us have absolute confidence in passing this trial. Since that's the case, let's go and challenge it together. It's fine as long as one of us can pass it. Hidaozi, your person will go through the trial of 6 desires while mine will go through the trial of 7 emotions. What do you think? The little demoness sighed and said, "All right. I happen to have a treasure that can block evil desires from entering my body. Challenging the trial of 6 desires is exactly what I want." He Shirshio did not say anything else. He led Gong Yangzi, Mysterious Flame and Yin Yomu into the light door of the 6 desires pass. The little demoness and Hong Yi entered the 7 emotions light door one after another. This purple mist is somewhat similar to the purple mist on the 10 steps bridge. However, it's not the same at all. It's even more evil. Can this purple mist also make people fall into illusions? Ning Fan pondered and stepped into the 7 emotions light door. At the end of the passage was a wooden bridge. At the end of the bridge was the exit of this trial. The surroundings of the wooden bridge were filled with purple mist. This purple mist indeed had the ability to induce illusions. When Ning Fan arrived at the end of the wooden bridge, he was surprised to find that Hong Yi and the little demoness were standing at the center of the bridge. The 2 women's eyes turned a faint purple. Both of them looked like they were in extreme pain. Hong Yi did not know what kind of illusion she had seen. She bit her lower lip with her silver teeth, causing blood to flow out. Her delicate body could not help but tremble. It was unknown what the little demoness had seen. Her face turned pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. Who had never crossed the 10 steps bridge? Who had never experienced the purple mist on the 10 steps bridge? However, the 10 steps bridge was only designed for spirit-severing realm cultivators. The purple mist here was specially designed to deal with void fragmentation realm cultivators. Its power was even more terrifying. Even they have been invaded by the illusion. Their sea of consciousness is crumbling bit by bit under the attack of the purple mist. If I don't find a way to wake them up, they will be in danger. Ning Fan took a step onto the wooden bridge and walked towards the 2 girls. When he arrived behind the 2 girls, before he could wake them up, countless purple mists suddenly invaded his sea of consciousness, invaded his Tao heart, and invaded his soul. All of a sudden, he lost control of his body as if he was petrified. Have I lost control of my body? Ning Fan had always been calm and composed. Even when he was controlled by the purple mist, he did not panic. Just as he was thinking of a way to get rid of the purple mist, a cold sword cultivator that was formed from the purple mist suddenly flew up from the bottom of the wooden bridge and slashed at Hong Yi. That cold sword cultivator's cultivation base had actually reached the immortal emperor realm. His qi gave Ning Fan a feeling that he could not win against him. It was as if the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Why is there such an expert here? Hong Yi, get away. Ning Fan exerted all of his strength to break free from the purple mist's control. He leaped into the air and held little demoness and Hong Yi with his left and right hands respectively, retreating rapidly. The purple mist sword cultivator snorted disdainfully. "Ant, you can't escape. Sword sense lockdown." That person released his purple sword sense. Patches of the vast sky were immediately sealed by him. Ning Fan had nowhere to run. Without saying a word, Ning Fan brought the 2 girls into the Yuan Yao world. The Yuan Yao world was a small kiliacosm. Even an ordinary immortal emperor might not be able to blast it open. However, Ning Fan had underestimated the strength of this purple mist sword cultivator. The purple mist sword cultivator smiled coldly. With a slash of his sword, the Yuan Yao world was split into 2. Ning Fan, Hong Yi, little demoness and Mu Weiliang's green coffin all fell out from the Yuan Yao world. As for the Yuan Yao jade between Ning Fan's fingers, it was broken into 2. This person is actually strong enough to blast open a small kiliacosm. Ning Fan's expression changed drastically. He had never been as nervous as he was at this moment. If he was the only one here, he would not be afraid of an immortal emperor even if he was weak. However, he was not the only one here. Lock. The purple mist sword cultivator casually pointed at Ning Fan, locking him on the spot. He could no longer activate any of his magic power. The aura force of an immortal emperor was released. Ning Fan was immediately suppressed on the wooden bridge like a dead dog. He could not move at all. He did not even have the strength to resist. It was all because the purple mist sword cultivator was an immortal emperor, and he was too weak. Who are you? You're asking me who I am? I'm the one who killed your entire family. This woman is not bad. She cultivates the Tao of lightning, And she even has half of the lightning star of Lightning Emperor Tai Su. Is she someone important to you? The purple mist immortal emperor looked at Ning Fan with a faint smile. Ning Fan did not speak. He could not figure out what this person was thinking. Judging from his tone, he seemed to be extremely hostile towards him. If he admits that Hong Yi is important to him, he might implicate her. Oh, she's not important to you? Then I'll kill her. By the way, let me tell you a piece of news that you don't know. She is Ning Honghong. The purple mist immortal emperor swung his sword horizontally and slashed at Hong Yi's neck. At this moment, Hong Yi was still immersed in the illusion. She did not realize that she was facing a great danger. Even if she realized it, how could she avoid the attack of an immortal emperor? Stop. Ning Fan's eyes were bloodshot. He had suspected that Hong Yi was Ning Honghong, but he could not prove his speculation. He did not expect that Hong Yi was really Ning Honghong who had gone through thick and thin with him in the demon sinister forest. He wanted to resist the aura force of the immortal emperor and get up from the wooden bridge. However, the more he resisted, the heavier the aura force became. His bones were crushed and his sea of consciousness was crushed. Even his primordial spirit was almost dead from the pressure. The skin on his body cracked and blood flowed out, dyeing his white robes red. However, he could not move at all. I can't get up. I can't get up. The weak can't protect anything. Qi the sword light cut through Hong Yi's neck. The sword qi passed through the wound and wreaked havoc inside her body, mincing her primordial spirit into pieces. Hong Yi finally regained her consciousness. She could not believe that she was going to die. She glared at the purple mist immortal emperor angrily. Then she turned her head and looked at Ning Fan reluctantly. Her eyes seemed to have something to say. However, when she opened her mouth, no words came out. Her corpse fell on the wooden bridge. Who are you? Who exactly are you? Ning Fan seemed to have lost his mind. Since he started cultivating, he had risked his life to prevent any woman behind him from dying on the path of cultivation. Today, however, Hong Yi died in front of him, and he could not even hug her corpse. I'm the person who killed your entire family. Haha. This lady is not bad. She has the void physique and cultivates the void scripture. She's from the godly void pavilion, right? Is she important to you? The purple mist immortal emperor looked at Ning Fan mockingly. What exactly do you want? I want to kill her. The purple mist immortal emperor sneered. With a wave of his sword light, he left a beautiful wound on the little demoness's neck. The little demon girl's body drew a beautiful arc in the air as she fell onto the wooden bridge. Before she died, she no longer had the slightest smile on her face. She just stared at Ning Fan reluctantly. She was reluctant to part with him. It was as if he was the only person she had left in her life. Her beautiful eyes that were like black gemstones gradually dimmed and eventually lost their luster. She seems to have feelings for you, but you don't know it. Perhaps you won't feel heartache when she dies. The purple mist immortal emperor said sarcastically. Ning Fan was stunned. He never knew that the little demoness had feelings for him. He was even more clueless as to why the little demon girl was staring at him with such a longing gaze. She kept staring at him. His heart suddenly felt empty. His eyes turned blood red and his body turned black all of a sudden. When the black shadow dispersed, he had already disappeared. When the black shadow condensed again, he had already appeared behind the purple mist immortal emperor and madly rushed towards him. You deserve to die. The incarnation of immortal emperor Tai Chang's soul. Break. The purple mist immortal emperor just casually pointed his finger, but it seemed to be able to make the entire heaven and earth collapse. Under the finger, Ning Fan's incarnation returned to his white-robed body and fell on the wooden bridge with a weak breath. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and guilt. This corpse devil doesn't seem to be bad. Oh, she actually has the bloodline of the heaven emperors. She seems to be very important to you, right? Stop. Stop right now. Ning Fan roared and struggled to get up from the ground. He angrily rushed towards the purple mist immortal emperor and protected the green coffin behind him. The purple mist immortal emperor just flicked his sleeve and an unimaginable force hit Ning Fan's chest, causing him to spurt out blood and half kneel on the ground. One sword slashed open the green coffin. Another sword slashed towards the sleeping Mu Wailyang. Kneel down and beg me. Then I will let her go. What do you think? The purple mist immortal emperor looked at Ning Fan disdainfully. Fine. Ning Fan's eyes gradually calmed down. He glanced at the green coffin and closed his eyes silently. In his previous life he was a butterfly and it was Mu Wailyang who saved him from death. No matter what, he could not watch Mu Wailyang die. Even if he had to give up his dignity, honor, cultivation base, and even if he had to lose his Tao in life, he would still protect her. He bent his knees and was about to kneel down. However, the purple mist immortal emperor sneered. I'm lying to you. A ray of sword light flashed. Mu Wailyang's body was immediately severely injured, and she was on the verge of death. Who are you? Who are you? I must kill you. I must kill you. Ning Fan felt as if his soul had been sucked out. Tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. The purple mist immortal emperor laughed loudly as if he was very happy. Then his figure flashed and he left. Only a sneer that was full of sarcasm reverberated in this world. How can you understand life and death without experiencing it? I will give you a fortune. I will let you watch your lover die in your arms bit by bit. I will help you understand life and death, and achieve the supreme immortal path. Huh. Speaking of which, I am your benefactor since I killed 3 of your women. Ning Fan's strength seemed to have been sucked out. He walked towards Mu Wailyang who was on the verge of death. His robes were tattered, and he stepped on the broken pieces of the green coffin with his bare feet. The broken pieces of the coffin still carried the sword chi of the old man. They pierced Ning Fan's feet and made him bleed. However, he did not feel any pain. He sat beside Mu Wailyang and held her body which was gradually turning cold in his arms. She was still sleeping soundly. She did not realize that she was about to die again. After she dies this time, I'm afraid that I won't have a chance to revive anymore. Ning Fan was like a puppet. He watched Mu Wailyang die bit by bit. He did not know how long he had been sitting on the wooden bridge. Mu Wailyang's body had already turned cold. He closed his eyes and tears flowed out of them. When he opened his eyes, his vision gradually became clear. So this is the illusion of the 4th test. I have already been deeply immersed in it. I didn't realize it until now. No wonder Hong Yi is in so much pain. No wonder the little demoness would shed tears. They probably also saw an illusion that they didn't want to see. Break. Ning Fan lifted his hand and pointed at the sky. The entire world suddenly shattered like glass. He was still standing on the wooden bridge. The purple mist in his eyes gradually became faint. Hong Yi and the little demoness who were in front of him were still immersed in their own illusions. Ning Fan slowly walked across the wooden bridge. The purple mist around him could no longer make him fall into the illusion. He walked across the wooden bridge step by step and reached the exit of the passage. At the moment he walked out of the next hall, the purple mist of the 7 emotions and 6 desires completely dissipated. The little demoness and Hong Yi regained their consciousness. In the 6 desires test, He Shirshio and the others who were immersed in their desires and laughing mischievously regained their senses. As soon as they saw each other's ugly behavior, their faces turned red with shame. The 4th test of the immemorial realm has been broken. Let's go to the next test. Ning Fan's tone was cold. Although it was just an illusion. However, he would rather die than to see such a scene again. The little demoness wiped her tears and remained silent. Hong Yi's lips were still bleeding. She was not in a good mood either. The 7 emotions and 6 desires test. This is really a terrifying power. Everyone in the world has emotions. Even immortals can't be emotionless. The most they can do is to forget their emotions. However, it doesn't mean that they are emotionless. There might be people who are emotionless in this world. However, if they are truly emotionless, they would not be able to forget their emotions and cultivate to the peak of the Tao. Emotions are a terrifying power. The people who control emotions are even more terrifying. Everyone entered the 5th hall. It was a large hall made of brass. Beside the giant brass door, there was only a door of light. It was also half black and half white. The little demoness recited the void scripture in silence, and regained some of her mood. Then she asked Ning Fan with a smile. What illusion did my husband see in the 4th test? What did you see again? Ning Fan retorted angrily. I saw you. I didn't see anything. What did big sister Hong Yi see? I saw that you were beaten to death by your future husband because you talked too much. Hong Yi replied angrily. Oh my. So scary. My husband is actually a violent maniac. Little Fan, you are really scary. After the little demoness interfered, Ning Fan and Hong Yi's mood became slightly better. Seeing that, the little demoness nodded her head and pointed at the black and white door of light. The fifth test of the immemorial realm is the test of life and death. Let's break through this test together. Alright. Fellow Taoist Yin, this time, it's up to you. Your Tao line of life and death technique should be able to be of some use in this test. He Shirshio looked at Yin Yomu with eyes filled with anticipation. Hong Yi was the one who broke the test of the 5 elements. The 4 symbols, Yin and Yang, the 7 emotions and 6 desires were all broken by Ning Fan. The helpers that the little demoness invited were all in the limelight while the helpers that he invited were all useless. In this last test, he could only hope that Yin Yomu would be of some use and help him gain some reputation. It's already the last test. Once we pass this test, we can open the door of the forbidden area and obtain the immemorial fisherman's Mino. He Shirshio's eyes were filled with excitement. Chapter 666. Yin Yomu let out a long sigh. He had only learned the surface of the Tao lines of life and death. His understanding of life and death was extremely shallow. Thus, he was not confident that he could pass the test at all. If he had not witnessed the power of the 5 tests, he would still have some confidence in passing them. However, after witnessing the power of the first few tests, his confidence had long been crushed. He knew very well that the 5 tests were not a place that a mere destruction realm cultivator like him should be able to enter. Even Gong Yangzi, Xianhua and He Shirshio were not people who could pass the tests. The hope of passing the tests was probably on Ning Fan, Hong Yi and the little demoness. As soon as they entered the passage of life and death, the 7 of them were immediately teleported to different places. This test was filled with gray mist. The mist seemed to have the effect of blocking spirit sense. It was unknown how long it would take to pass through the mist and reach the place where the test would be passed. Perhaps it would be a few days or a few months. Ning Fan walked in the mist. After a few breaths, he suddenly stopped and his expression changed slightly. Tao poison. There's Tao poison in this mist. Tao poison was a unique poison that could only be defended against with Tao power. The Tao poison in this place was the Tao poison of life and death. Only by using the power of life and death to protect oneself could one defend against this poison. As soon as Ning Fan noticed the Tao poison in this place, he stomped on the ground without hesitation. Immediately, 500 traces of black and white qi flew around his body. It was the power of life and death extracted from the Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit. With the protection of this Tao power, the mist immediately dispersed a little. The Tao poison could no longer harm him. Fortunately, Ning Fan discovered it early and used his Tao power to protect himself in time. His body was not poisoned by the Tao poison of life and death. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. If he is poisoned by the Tao poison of life and death, he would certainly die within 1,000 years. Unless an immortal emperor intervenes, there would be no way to save him. The little demoness was also teleported away. Her comprehension of the Tao of life and death was higher than Ning Fan's. She already had 2,800 traces of the Tao marks of life and death. Thus, she discovered the abnormality of the mist faster than Ning Fan. After summoning 2,800 traces of black and white qi to protect herself, she did not look relaxed at all. Instead, she looked a little worried. I didn't expect that the Tao poison of life and death would be like this. If I knew this earlier, I shouldn't have little Fan to pass the test. Hong Yi discovered the Tao poison almost at the same time as Ning Fan. She summoned 600 traces of black and white qi to protect herself. Her aptitude was the best in the Rain World and even the 9 worlds. If she hadn't been harmed by the Rain Emperor, she might have already reached the peak stage of the 9th Shatterer stage after 10,000 years of bitter cultivation. Dying once was not without its benefits. She had died once, so she naturally had a unique understanding of life and death. With the protection of the power of life and death, she was not afraid of the Tao poison. However, there was also a trace of worry in his ice-cold blood-red eyes. Does he have a way to block the poison? Hishirshio's side was much more miserable. Hishirshio's perception of life and death was close to zero. Gong Yangzi and Mystic Flame's perception was basically zero. The three of them were teleported away. Looking at the fog in front of them, they sneered. I didn't expect the fifth stage to be so simple. There's only a mere mist blocking the way. In this way, finding the exit would take a lot of time, but there would be no danger. This trial is easy to pass. The three of them did not know that when they were sneering, their bodies had unknowingly been infected with Dao poison. Yin Yomu's eyes were filled with shock and regret. After walking for a very, very long distance, he vaguely felt that something was wrong with his body. When he examined his body, he suddenly realized that he had been poisoned by the Dao poison of life and death unknowingly. He hurriedly summoned 2 traces of black qi and white qi to protect his body. His expression was extremely unpleasant. It's too late. It's too late. This trial is really vicious. Do I only have 1,000 years left to live? Ningfan passed through the mist all the way. 3 months later, he finally found the exit in the mist. The little demoness and Hong Yi also arrived at the same time. They arrived at the exit almost at the same time. After passing through the mist, the number of Dao marks on their primordial spirits had increased to 10 to 20. It could be considered as a good harvest. The number of Dao marks of life and death that Ningfan had now reached 520. Seeing that Ningfan was safe and sound, the little demoness secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes flickered slightly, but she did not say anything. Ningfan also felt slightly relieved when he saw that the two of them were unharmed. The three of them walked out of the exit together. All of a sudden, the mist in the fifth stage disappeared completely. Hishirshio and the others who were already close to the exit saw the mist disappear. They knew that the fifth stage had been passed by someone again. When he saw that it was Ningfan and the others who had passed the stage, Hishirshio's face twitched. He and his companions had actually become bystanders again. Ningfan glanced at Hishirshio and the others and sighed inwardly. This group of people had been poisoned by the Dao poison, but they still did not know about it. No, it was not that everyone did not know about it. At least, Yin Yomu knew about it. Yin Yomu's eyes were unfocused and he was in a daze. He had been poisoned by the Dao poison. If no immortal emperors were to save him, he would only have 1,000 years left to live. Where can I find an immortal emperor in 1,000 years? Forget it. Forget it. This is fate. I can't force it. Fellow Taoist Yin, you don't have to be depressed. It doesn't matter who passes the fifth stage. Hishirshio comforted Yin Yomu hypocritically. He just thought that Yin Yomu's expression was unpleasant because he failed to pass the stage. Even though he was comforting him verbally, he was inwardly cursing Yin Yomu, Gong Yangzi, Xianhua and the others. What a bunch of useless people. If I knew that these people are useless, I would have recruited them from the very beginning. Hong Yi looked at Hishirshio and the others and shook her head gently without saying anything. The little demoness looked at Hishirshio and the others. Her expression changed slightly but she did not say anything. The 5 stages of the primordial era had been broken. All that was left was to open the gate of the Forbidden Land and obtain the primordial fisherman's Mino. After exiting the 5th stage, there was a long bronze tunnel that led straight to the underground. At the end of the tunnel, there was a 500,000 feet tall bronze gate. There were 6 keyholes on the gate, and it could only be opened with the shedding orchid key. Hee, I'm ashamed that I didn't do anything along the way. Leave the matter of blasting open the giant door to me. The reason why I came a month late was to ask the elders of my sect to refine this item. This is an immortal talisman, restriction-breaking talisman. 1 talisman is enough to break open the restriction of a life-immortal mansion and the gate. Hishirshio smiled gently and took out an immortal talisman with green light flowing around it. The little demoness glanced at the immortal talisman, but did not say anything. She nodded and signaled Hishirshio to break the stage. However, she was speechless. Hishirshio didn't know that he had been poisoned by the Dao poison, and was still showing off. Hold on. This restriction-breaking talisman is also a precious item. If you don't have to use it, don't use it. The gate of this forbidden land can only be opened with 6 shedding orchid keys. Hidaozi has 3 keys while Miss Xiao has 2. I also have 1. Isn't it better to open the door with the keys? As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a bronze key from his storage pouch. When she saw that the last key was actually with him, the little demoness could not help but be stunned. Then, she looked at him with a smile. Her eyes seemed to be saying something. The actions of the successor of ancient chaos are indeed unexpected. The last key is actually with you. You're indeed worthy of being my little fan. Hong Yi's expression did not change much. She was not concerned about how to open the door. It was enough as long as she could get the picture. Shirshio's smile immediately froze on his face. His face turned green and red. Is Ningfan not even going to give me the credit of opening the door of the Forbidden Land? Forget it. Let's open the door and get the picture. I didn't expect fellow Taoist Ning to have the last shedding orchid key. Great. This is really great. Since that's the case, let's use the key to open the door of the Forbidden Land. Shirshio took out 3 shedding orchid keys from his storage pouch. With a flick of his finger, he inserted the 3 keys into the corresponding keyholes. The little demoness also took out her key. With a flick of her finger, she inserted the key into the corresponding keyhole. Ningfan raised his hand and summoned the shedding orchid key. The key automatically flew into the last keyhole. When all 6 keys were inserted into the keyholes, the door of the Forbidden Land opened with a rumbling sound. Inside the Forbidden Land, what entered their sight was a vast land of ice and snow. 1,000 li of the land was covered in ice and snow was drifting in the air. The Forbidden Land was just too vast. They could not see the end of it at all. After entering the Forbidden Land, they had been flying for a few days, but they still could not see the end of the Forbidden Land. They also could not find the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting. He faintly felt that something was wrong with this place. As for what was wrong, he could not put his finger on it. The little demoness and Hong Yi also frowned. They felt that something was not right. Little Fan, I have a bad premonition. I feel that we should leave this forbidden land as soon as possible. The little demoness said with a solemn expression. I also have the same premonition. The mountains and snow here don't seem to have any vitality. It's as if they were drawn. Hong Yi said with a frown. It's drawn. Ningfan was startled. He seemed to have thought of a possibility. He landed at the foot of the snowy mountain and began to investigate a nearby snowy mountain. As soon as he did so, his eyes darkened. Sure enough, we won't be able to find the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting if we continue walking like this. The moment we stepped into the Forbidden Land, we were sucked into the painting. Everything we see is the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting. What? We were actually sucked into the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting? How is this possible? Shirshio exclaimed in surprise. Why is it impossible? The immemorial fisherman's Mino painting is a supreme treasure that controls the life and death of those who are sucked into it. Look at this snowy mountain. It's still white now. This is life. When the white color completely turns black, it means death. At that time, no one will be able to live except for me. In a few hours, all of you will die in the painting. This voice suddenly resounded without any warning. Even Ningfan's expression changed slightly. On an icy lake not far away, an old man wearing a white bamboo hat and straw cape was sitting alone on a fishing boat. He was fishing on the surface of the lake. No one knew when he had been fishing in this place. However, no one could discover him. His cultivation base had already surpassed the Rogue Immortal Realm and reached the Life Immortal Realm. Life Immortal Realm. Why is there a Life Immortal Realm cultivator hiding in this place? Let's go. Shirshio, Gong Yangzi and Xianhua's expressions changed. They turned around and wanted to flee. Yin Yomu's eyes flashed. He also prepared to flee. From their point of view, a Life Immortal Realm cultivator who appeared in this place was most likely an enemy. Ningfan, however, did not flee. If this Life Immortal Realm cultivator is an enemy, running away would be useless. Moreover, Ningfan did not sense any killing intent from this person. He did not seem to be hostile. Ningfan was the first to land on the shore of the icy lake. He cupped his fists and greeted the person. Junior Ning Fan greets Senior. Hong Yi and the little demoness also landed on the ground. However, they just stood behind Ning Fan and greeted the person without saying anything. Oh. You kids do have some guts. Those few people are much weaker. The white-robed fisherman pointed at Hishirshio and the others and said disdainfully. Hishirshio's face turned pale. He was a little displeased. However, he did not dare to show it in front of the life-immortal realm cultivator. He was afraid that he would be killed here if he offends this person. I don't know what Senior meant just now. I don't understand. Ning Fan asked. You don't understand? In that case, this old man will explain it again. From the moment you stepped into the forbidden area, you have been sucked into the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting. You can no longer get out. In a few hours, another black-robed life immortal realm cultivator will come to kill you. Black-robed life immortal realm cultivator. Ning Fan's expression changed. He did not expect that there would be a second life immortal realm cultivator in this place. Hishirshio and the others' expressions changed greatly. They did not expect that they would not be able to leave after entering this place. They did not expect that a black-robed life immortal realm cultivator would come to kill them in a few hours. Why did things turn out like this? They had already passed the 5 trials of the ancient times and opened the door to the forbidden area. However, they had fallen into a hopeless situation when they reached the step of obtaining the painting. What should they do? That black-robed life immortal realm cultivator is different from me. He is ruthless and he cultivates the Tao of death. He will kill anyone who tries to obtain the painting. I cultivate the Tao of life. Therefore, when I saw you guys in trouble, I wanted to lend you a hand. Of course, I also have some selfish motives. That black-robed life immortal realm cultivator wants to kill me, and I also want to kill him. However, no one can kill the other. Little friend Ning, how about you help me kill him together with me? How can I help Senior kill a life immortal realm cultivator? May I ask Senior if there is a way to get out of this place? Ning Fan did not agree to the white-robed elderly man's request. Now he just wanted to find a way to get out of this place. He did not want to become the enemy of a life immortal realm cultivator. He secretly activated the profound Yin world and found out that it could still be used. When he secretly activated the Yuan Yao world, he realized that it could not be used. As for the snow-capped mountain far away, it began to turn black bit by bit. The moment the darkness appeared, Ning Fan's heart was filled with a sense of crisis. Inwardly, he guessed that what the elderly man said about not being able to get out of this place was probably true. It was probably true that a black-robed life immortal realm cultivator would come to this place to kill them a few hours later. Even if he returns to where he came from, he probably would not be able to find the entrance that he came from. If the black-robed life immortal realm cultivator comes to attack him, he could hide in his Kiliacosm treasure. However, Hong Yi and the little demoness had nowhere to hide. It would be difficult for them to escape death. Moreover, the Kiliacosm treasure also had a time limit. Ning Fan could only stay inside for a month. After 1 month he would get out of the profound Yin world, and he would still be attacked by the black-robed life immortal realm cultivator. Ning Fan just wanted to find a way to get out of this place and bring the 2 ladies away from here. He did not want to see the scene in the illusion happen again, and watch the 2 ladies die in front of him. A way to get out of this place, huh? There is. As long as you kill either me or that black-robed life immortal realm cultivator, you will have a chance to get out of this place. Otherwise, you will be sealed in this painting forever. What? Ning Fan's eyes turned grim. Could it be that I have to kill a life immortal realm cultivator in order to get out of this place? The white-robed old man's gaze swept across the crowd. Then he looked at the little demoness and said with a sigh, if this little girl's cultivation base is at its peak, she might be able to lend me a hand. Sigh. What a pity. Little friend, lend me your devil sealing pouch for a while. I know what you're worried about. Don't worry. I don't have any evil intentions towards you people. What I want is just to be free from this place. You guys just need to watch from the side. The white-robed old man made a grabbing motion towards the devil sealing pouch on Ning Fan's waist. Immediately, hundreds of orchid petals flew out from his body. With just a suction force, the devil sealing pouch flew into his hand. Ning Fan's eyes widened. He remembered that he had read about this kind of ability from the Shedding Orchid sect's introduction. It was called the orchid seizing technique. It was a type of ability that allowed one to seize magic treasures from others. Could this person be a member of the Shedding Orchid sect? Little friend Ning, please don't be angry. I can swear on my great heart devil oath that I have absolutely no hostility towards you people. What I want is just to kill that black-robed life immortal realm cultivator, and then be free from this place. I won't lend you the devil sealing pouch for a while for free. You haven't completely subdued the thing inside, right? How about I help you subdue it completely? Little friend, lend me a trace of your spirit sense. As soon as he finished speaking, the white-robed old man really swore on his great heart devil oath, expressing that he would not have the intention to harm anyone at the scene. Ning Fan frowned. The way to leave this place was to kill a life immortal realm cultivator. Either the black-robed old man, or the white-robed old man must die in order to escape. The white-robed old man had already borrowed the rogue devil. He probably wanted to use the rogue devil's power to suppress the black-robed old man and kill him. The rogue devil had already fallen into the white-robed old man's hands, and he had also sworn not to harm anyone here. The only thing Ning Fan could do now was to trust this white-robed life immortal realm cultivator, and lend him the rogue devil to help him kill the black-robed life immortal realm cultivator. Is there a need to give this person a trace of spirit sense? Ning Fan forced out a trace of spirit sense from his sea of consciousness, and passed it to the white-robed old man. With the white-robed old man's strength, there was no need for him to plot against Ning Fan. Taking this trace of spirit sense was probably really to help him subdue the rogue devil. The white-robed old man received Ning Fan's trace of spirit sense, and said to Ning Fan with a smile, "Little friend and I are fated, but you don't know about it. You possess the token of the Lanling Sect's sect master, the 1,000 Mountains of Orchid Snow painting. Besides that, you have also learned the secret technique of my Shedding Orchid sect, the mutual death technique. For the sake of this fate, why would I harm you? Vile creature, come out." The white-robed old man suddenly opened the devil sealing pouch. A trace of devil chi immediately rushed out from the pouch, and turned into a gigantic devil creature. It raised its head and laughed heartily. "Huh? You are finally going to use me for the third time. Hurry up and use it. After using it, the puppet strings will be broken and I will be reborn." The little demoness did not find it strange that Ning Fan had a rogue devil. After spending some time with Ning Fan, she seemed to have already noticed it. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes, however, were filled with shock. She never expected that Ning Fan would bring a rogue devil with him. He Shirxiu, Gong Yangzi, Xianhua and Yin Yumu were all shocked. A rogue devil? Ning Fan actually brought a rogue devil with him. Loose devils were the pinnacle experts of the devil realm. There were only 5 of them in the entire devil realm. Ning Fan actually has a rogue devil expert with him. Where did this rogue devil come from? Was it the devil world's scattered devil ancestor, or a powerhouse of the devil path from the upper realm? Haha, I am finally going to be free. Ha ha ha. The scattered devil was really excited. What he was most afraid of was that Ning Fan would never use him for the third time, and that the puppet thread would never break. He had been waiting for Ning Fan's order him again. After that, he would be free, and Ning Fan's would never put him into the evil sealing pouch again. His arrogant eyes swept the surroundings, and when he saw the strange scenery, he was stunned at first. His gaze swept across Ning Fan, the little demoness, Hong Yi, He Shirxiu and the others. Finally, his gaze fell on the white-robed life immortal realm expert. The white-robed life immortal held a demon sealing pouch in his hand. It was the white-robed life immortal who released him. In an instant, the loose devil's smile froze on his face. Fate immortal. Why is there a fate immortal here? Speaking of which, what the hell is this place? Smelly old man, who are you? What do you want to do to me? What do I want to do? I want to do little friend Ning a favor by subduing you and slightly borrowing your power. Sit down. The white-robed life immortal realm expert's eyes suddenly turned sharp. Countless shadows of orchids appeared in the sky. He pointed a finger and a ray of blue light accompanied by Ning Fan's spirit sense went into the scattered devil's head. The scattered devil let out a miserable shriek. He held his head and rolled violently on the ground as if he was in extreme pain. This was a secret technique of the shedding orchid sect. It could forcefully plant a mental seal on a cultivator whose cultivation base was weaker than the user. However, using this technique required a special physique. Not everyone could learn this technique. Gradually, the scattered devil's pain began to weaken and he no longer struggled. However, his eyes were filled with discomfort as if he had just swallowed a fly. God damn it! God damn it! His sea of consciousness was actually planted with a mental seal. Moreover, it was planted with Ningfan's spirit sense. He had actually become Ningfan's true devil slave. Even if the puppet thread is broken, he would not be able to escape from Ningfan's control anymore. He no longer had the chance to carry out the beautiful escape plan that he had been looking forward to. I'm really unlucky. I grew up in the demon sealing pouch, and have never roamed freely in the outside world. I was born to be a demon slave for others. Damned heavens, they can't do this to me. Ningfan's eyes flashed with surprise and joy. He tried activating his divine telekinesis, and found that he could really control the rogue devil with his divine telekinesis, and control its life and death. The problem of the scattered devil, which had always been a headache for him, was easily solved by the Life Immortal Senior in front of him. From the looks of it, borrowing the Life Immortal to use the scattered demon was not a loss, but a gain. If what the Life Immortal said was true and they could defeat the black-robed Life Immortal with the help of the rogue devil, they would be able to escape. If the white-robed Life Immortal had evil intentions, it would be really dangerous this time. Husband, this person can be trusted. I think I know who he is. When he was alive, he was so proud that he didn't even submit to the heavenly Tao. What he disdained the most was lying to others and playing tricks. If he says he's not hostile towards us, then he definitely isn't. The little demoness revealed a thoughtful expression and transmitted her voice to Ningfan. Then he told Ningfan about the identity of the white-robed Life Immortal. It's him. He's not a living person. Ningfan's eyes turned serious. He didn't seek immortality and didn't seek immortality. He dared to sacrifice the heavens for the Tao. So it's him. Chapter 667. Ningfan looked at the white-robed Life Immortal in silence. He didn't expect this Life Immortal in white to be the legendary forefather Shilan. According to the little demon girl, this person was obsessed with giving up, so he became an immortal. However, the possession of the primordial fisherman's cowhide painting ultimately led to the destruction of the shedding orchid sect. The 4 ancient maps were not something a sect with a Life Immortal could possess. Ancestor Shilan was supposed to be dead. Who would have thought that he would appear in the immemorial fisherman's Mino? Ningfan carefully observed old ancestor Shilan, and realized that he was not a living person. There was no sign of life in him. Just like the surrounding world of ice and snow, it was as if it was drawn out. Before I died, I drew my remnant will into the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting because I still have an unfulfilled wish that needs to be resolved before I can die in peace. Old ancestor Shilan smiled at Ningfan. When Ningfan's expression changed slightly, he knew that Ningfan had guessed his identity. Who is that black-robed Life Immortal Realm cultivator? Why is Senior so insistent on killing him? Also, why does he want to kill Senior? Ningfan asked. He was the cultivator who came to steal the map back then. He has the lives of thousands of Shilan's disciples on his hands. He was trapped in the immemorial fisherman's Mino picture and died with hatred, but his demonic thoughts remained in the picture. He is proficient in a secret technique of the Devil Tao. If his devil sense doesn't disperse, all the cultivators he has killed in this life will never be able to enter samsara again. They will live in the sea of bitterness forever, losing their true path forever. Shilan forefather took a deep breath and said with sharp eyes, "Therefore, I must kill this strand of demonic thought of his. With the help of little friend's loose devil, it won't be hard for me to kill him." The Shilan ancestor's eyes were filled with a crazy obsession. He must bring back the fallen disciples of the Shilan ancestor. His words were only directed at Ningfan, the little demoness and Hong Yi. He Shirshio and the others could not hear him at all. Ningfan's eyes turned cold, but he did not say anything. He could not help but admire Ancestor Shilan in his heart. Ancestor Shilan's remnant consciousness was not extinguished, just to let his disciples reincarnate. He swore to destroy the evil consciousness in the immemorial fisherman's Mino painting. There weren't many people like him in the cultivation world. Little friend, this old man and you are fated. I would like to make a deal with you. How about it? What kind of deal? Ning Fan frowned. This old man still has 8 million myriad Tao crystals. I want to get a promise from my little friend's mouth, and let my little friend do something. As long as little friend promises this matter, this old man will definitely give this Tao crystal to you. As soon as he finished speaking, old Ancestor Shilan carefully observed every expression on Ning Fan's face. He realized that even though Ning Fan's expression changed slightly when he heard about the 8 million Tao crystals, there was no hint of greed in his eyes. He also did not agree to his request immediately. Instead, he wore a thoughtful look on his face. 8 million Tao crystals are almost enough for this young man to cultivate to the middle and upper level of the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The temptation is certainly huge. However, this child has no greed in his eyes. It seems that he is a person who does not make promises lightly. Since he does not make promises lightly, he will not break his promise. It seems that I have found the right person. Old Ancestor Shilan did not disturb Ning Fan's thoughts and waited quietly. Hong Yi and the little seductress, who were standing at the side, looked slightly surprised. 8 million Tao crystals was not a small amount. What kind of promise does this old Ancestor Shilan want Ning Fan to give? Ning Fan pondered for a while. Then he raised his head and looked at old Ancestor Shilan with a serious expression. Senior, what request do you have? Why don't you tell me first? If it's within my capabilities, I will certainly give you a promise. If it's not something that I can do, I won't agree to it with empty promises. Hehe. That's how it should be. I want little friend to kill a person. This person is the main person who destroyed my Shilan sect. He used his power to bully others and oppress Shilan. Who is he? What's his cultivation base? The sect master of the Tao Yi sect in the Western Heaven Immortal world. He was a true immortal at the Crossing Truth realm in the past. Now, if he is still alive, he might already be Shikong or perhaps. Old Ancestor Shilan sighed. This sect master of the Tao Yi sect was just too strong. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. This kind of earth-shattering figure is not someone that I can defeat. I can't give you this promise. Little friend, you don't have to reject me so quickly. I'm not asking you to kill this person right now. If one day, your cultivation base is strong enough and you're confident that you can kill this person easily, you can kill him then. If it's impossible, I won't have any regrets in this life as long as little friend has tried your best. I'll kill this person when my cultivation base is strong enough? Ning Fan pondered for a long time and finally nodded. All right. I'll agree to this. If one day, I have the ability to kill this person, I will certainly go to the Tao Yi sect and kill him. Hehe. I believe you. Take these Tao crystals. When I kill the black-robed devil sense, it will be the time when my remnant will perish. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to give you these Tao crystals anymore. Old Ancestor Shilan raised his palm and waved. A storage pouch appeared on his palm out of nowhere, and he gave it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan kept the storage pouch without saying anything. Everyone was speechless for a while and waited quietly. The rogue devil lowered his head dejectedly and listened to old Ancestor Shilan's words. He did not dare to refute. When old Ancestor Shilan heard that the rogue devil did not have a name, he immediately gave it a name. I used to raise a spirit dog. His name is Big Head. From today onwards, you shall be called Big Head. Fuck. Big Head. What the hell is this name? I don't want this name. The rogue devil expressed his strong objection. I've made up my mind. You can't have any dissatisfaction. Yes. The rogue devil revealed a bitter expression. He was a dignified rogue devil. He could be considered as a peak expert in the mortal world. However, his name was actually Big Head. If others find out about this, he would lose all his face. He wanted to resist old ancestor Shilan, but he did not dare to do so. He could only pray that Ningfan did not hear this name, and would not call him that in the future. When he turned his head to look at Ningfan, he saw him holding his chin and muttering to himself with a serious expression. After a long time, he suddenly smiled and said, "Big Head, huh? That's really a good name. It's much better than the name Little Black that I gave my little Sable. I'm not good at giving names, so I'll just call him Big Head." The rogue devil was instantly dumbfounded. Putting aside the fact that he was planted with a mental seal, he actually called him Big Head. Today was really the most miserable day of his life. Time flashed. 6 hours had passed. At this moment, the white snow between heaven and earth had all turned black. From afar, a black figure was flying towards them at full speed in the vast sky. His figure flashed in the sky again and again. Each time he flashed, he would travel a distance of millions of li. Not long after, he appeared above everyone's heads. The aura force of a life immortal realm expert pressed down crazily, and he laughed without restraint. "Shilan, I'm here again. Today, I must kill you." There's still a group of kids here. Good. Very good. Since that's the case, let's kill all of them. This person had an ugly appearance and an unusually short figure. His eyes were filled with evil qi. His gaze swept across Ningfan and the others with disdain. However, when his gaze swept past the rogue devil, his eyes suddenly turned grim. "Rogue devil. Humph. I didn't expect you to actually have a helper. Do you think you can defeat me with the help of a rogue devil?" He locked his killing intent on the rogue devil. The rogue devil was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He no longer had his usual arrogant expression. How could he dare to be arrogant in front of a life immortal? He Shirxiu, Gong Yangzi, Xianhua and Yunyomu's expressions changed. All of them hid behind Ningfan and the others, afraid that they would get involved in the battle between life immortals. "Netherflame, there's no need for you to talk nonsense. Just fight. Big Head, fight with this old man." Shilan ancestor's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He leaped into the sky and pointed at the black-robed life immortal without a word. The scattered demon gritted his teeth, not daring to disobey ancestor Shilan's order. He braced himself and rushed toward the black-robed life immortal, throwing a punch. The black-robed life immortal's eyes darkened. He changed his hand sign, and the black flames around his body turned into 2 streams of flames that swept towards ancestor Shilan and the scattered demon respectively. Black fire and the orchid finger collided, but it was slightly at a disadvantage. After all, the power was divided. The black flames collided with the scattered devil's fist light, but it directly burned the scattered devil's fist light into nothingness. The remnant flames swept towards the scattered devil. The scattered devil was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He was about to be incinerated by the black flames. Just as he was in despair, he suddenly saw the remaining black flames disappear without a trace. When he lowered his head to take a look, he found that it had been taken away by Ningfan, who was below him. All of a sudden, the scattered devil's expression became extremely complicated. He was actually saved by Ningfan once again. "Humph! How dare a mere second destruction realm junior meddle in my business? After this, I will certainly tear you into a million pieces." The black-robed life immortal's face was filled with rage, but he was secretly shocked. He thought to himself, this second destruction realm junior's methods are really heaven-defying. Even though his black flames are not immortal flames, they are still very powerful. Ningfan's face turned slightly pale after he used the power of the steel of sun and moon to keep the black flames. The black flames were not as powerful as immortal flames, but they were not much weaker. Even though he forcefully kept the black flames with the steel of sun and moon, it still caused Ningfan significant injuries. However, Ningfan had no other choice. At this moment, it was impossible for him to watch the scattered demon die. He was a powerful fighter, and a great help in killing the black-robed life immortal. Old ancestor Shilan gave Ningfan a surprised look. Then he burst into laughter. "Netherflame, it seems like your devil sense is really going to end today. Immortal technique, renounce heaven." Old ancestor Shilan displayed his ability. The entire heaven and earth began to slowly disappear as if he had abandoned everything. Traces of orchid shadows drifted around the black-robed life immortal's body. In just an instant, the black-robed life immortal's body began to slowly disappear, as if he had also been abandoned by old ancestor Shilan. Immortal technique, Nether Devour. The black-robed life immortal's eyes turned extremely solemn. He activated all of the magic power in his body. Traces of dark red nether flame rose around his body and burned the orchid shadows one by one. At the moment when the orchid shadows disappeared, the vanished heaven and earth reappeared. After withstanding old ancestor Shilan's attack with great difficulty, and not getting injured by the renounce heaven technique, the black-robed life immortal felt a sharp pain on his back. The scattered demon had taken the opportunity to sneak up on him, and landed hundreds of punches on his back. Each of his punches was enough to shake heaven and earth. Each of his punches could destroy a mid-grade cultivation country. The black-robed life immortal was just a body of devil sense after all. How could the toughness of his body compare to the scattered demon? After receiving hundreds of punches, the black-robed life immortal immediately coughed out a few mouthfuls of black blood. He had already suffered some injuries. His eyes were burning with anger. A mere scattered demon dares to sneak up on me. I'm going to kill you. His body swayed and disappeared without a trace. At the next moment, he directly appeared in front of the scattered demon, and slammed his palm down. A 50,000 zhang large nether flame palm imprint immediately landed on the scattered demon's head, giving him a feeling that he was going to die. This time, old ancestor Shilan had already appeared beside the scattered demon without Ningfan's help. He made a hand seal and countless orchid shadows formed a gigantic orchid shield in front of the scattered demon, blocking all the incoming palm imprint. The huge shockwaves from the collision nearly overturned heaven and earth. Old ancestor Shilan then raised his hand, and a sword made of orchid shadows appeared in his hand. Dao weapon. Ningfan's eyes flashed. He could recognize that this orchid sword was a Dao weapon. It was very similar to his memory-severing Dao sword. Without saying a word, old ancestor Shilan slashed hundreds of times at the black-robed life immortal. Each of his sword strikes was accompanied by an orchid shadow. Even though the black-robed life immortal was able to neutralize all of the sword light, his magic power would be greatly reduced every time he blocked a sword strike. The black-robed life immortal's face was ashen. He realized that this Dao soldier's divine ability was a bit strange and not easy to deal with. With a wave of his hand, the dark red flames condensed into a large axe. This was also a Dao weapon. The axe and the sword clashed against each other. The black-robed life immortal and ancestor Shilan could not hurt each other. Just as the battle reached its climax, the black-clothed life immortal suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back as he suffered hundreds of punches. He was ambushed by a loose devil again. You're courting death. The black-robed life immortal was enraged. He glared at the scattered demon. While he was distracted, ancestor Shilan leaped forward and slashed at the neck of the black-robed life immortal. Chi. The black-robed life immortal's head was cut off by the sword and flew high into the sky. Another strike destroyed the life immortals Dantian and Yuanshen. We won. Senior white-clothed won. We can break free. He Shirshia was overjoyed. Ningfan, on the other hand, knitted his brows tightly. The sense of danger in his heart gradually increased. No, he didn't win. The black-robed life immortal was still alive. Suddenly, a second primordial spirit flew out from the black-robed life immortal's head. This person cultivated a second primordial spirit technique. The strength of this second primordial spirit was weaker than his first primordial spirit. He knew that he had no chance of winning even if he continued to fight. His eyes were filled with anger. He glared at the loose devil, Ningfan and everyone else at the scene. Shilan, my devil sense is going to dissipate soon. However, before I die, I'm going to teach you a painful lesson. I'm going to stir up the heaven and earth of this place and bury all of you here. Immortal technique, devil grieves the world. The black-robed life immortal burst into laughter, as if he had gone mad. His second primordial spirit suddenly self-destructed. His devil blood turned into black mist and instantly sealed the entire space in the fish map. At the next moment, countless dark red fiery rain fell from the sky. Everything that was burned by the fiery rain immediately melted into water and mist. Little friend, Remember your promise to me. Sacrifice technique. Old ancestor Shilong glanced at Ning Fan for the last time and smiled with relief. Then he resolutely soared into the sky and self-destructed his body, turning into countless shadows of orchids to resist the fiery rain. Ning Fan sighed softly and watched old ancestor Shilan's remnant will disappear. However, his eyes were filled with astonishment at the next moment. The entire fish map suddenly shook violently. Life and death intertwined with each other. Black and white intertwined. The orchids and the fiery rain cancelled each other out. However, the trembling of the ground became more and more intense. Countless Tao force of life and death swept towards Ning Fan and the others. Everyone including Ning Fan coughed out blood and suffered serious injuries when the extremely powerful Tao force of life and death rushed towards them. The world in this place underwent a drastic change because of the battle between the two life immortal realm experts. This drastic change was probably out of old ancestor Shilan's expectation. Suddenly, the orchids flickered on the ground and a black crack was torn open. Countless snowy mountains fell from the sky. Ning Fan took a deep look at the crack on the ground, and then looked at the collapsing world. He gritted his teeth and raised his hand to keep the loose devil. Then he grabbed Hong Yi and little Demoness and leaped into the crack. He did not know where the crack was. However, since the orchids were flickering, it was most likely the path of survival that old ancestor Shilan had pointed out to him. Perhaps only by leaping into the crack could he avoid this calamity of life and death. He Shirxiu and the others were not as decisive as Ning Fan. They did not know where the crack on the ground led to. Thus, they did not dare to jump into it recklessly. Each of them activated their magic techniques to shatter the snowy mountains above their heads. The snowy mountains could defend themselves, but the Tao force of life and death that filled heaven and earth was difficult to defend against. Gradually, they also realized that it would be difficult for them to escape death if they continued to resist the Tao force of life and death. Only by jumping into the crack on the ground would they have a chance of survival. When they wanted to jump into the crack, it was already too late. The crack had already closed up. Not good. My life is over. He Shirxiu's face turned pale with fright. All of a sudden, he was pressed down by a mountain that was half black and half white. The moment he was pressed down by the mountain, his body was corroded by the Tao force of life and death. His physical body slowly decayed. However, Gong Yangzi and Xianhuo were not as lucky. Both of them were directly torn into pieces by the Tao force of life and death. Their Tao experience was completely useless. Yin Yumu's face was filled with despair. He was poisoned by the Tao poison. Originally, he still had 1,000 years of life left. If he dies here, wouldn't he lose even 1,000 years of life? A loud bang resounded. A snowy mountain that was half black and half white fell from the sky, crushing Yin Yumu beneath it. Yin Yumu's physical body also began to decay slowly. He desperately activated the Qi of life and death to slightly suppress the decay. However, it was impossible for him to escape from the bottom of the mountain. The mountain was too heavy and it contained boundless Tao force. Am I going to be trapped here until the Tao poison takes effect and I die? Yin Yumu said in despair. In a quiet stone chamber, Ning Fan slowly regained consciousness. Beside him, Hong Yi and the little demon girl were unconscious and on the verge of death. The two of them seemed to have been injured especially badly by the Tao force of life and death. It was a little strange. Little Demoness' comprehension of the Tao of life and death far surpassed his, while Hong Yi's comprehension of the Tao of life and death was not any weaker than his. Even though he was also injured, it was not serious. However, the two of them were severely injured and on the verge of death. Ning Fan was stunned. When he recalled the previous scene, he seemed to have understood something. He remembered that when the Tao force of life and death attacked him, the two of them seemed to have moved closer to him intentionally or unintentionally. Did they secretly help him block the damage from the Tao force of life and death? Ning Fan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He looked at the stone chamber and saw that there was an ice bed inside. Then he carried the two of them onto the ice bed. After thinking for a while, he rummaged through little Demoness' storage pouch and took out 2 half-completed 8th Revolution healing pills and fed them to the two of them. Those pills seemed to be the ones used to treat Mei Chen's injuries. Ning Fan did not have this kind of high-grade healing pill with him. Thus, he could only borrow little Demoness pills. He only took 2 pills and did not look through the other items in little Demoness storage pouch. However, with just a quick glance, he realized that the wealth in little Demoness storage pouch was probably comparable to the total wealth of the entire 3 middle realms combined. Little Demoness is really a rich young lady. After helping the 2 of them consume the pills, their complexions gradually recovered. However, he did not know how long it would take for them to regain consciousness. Anyway, their lives were no longer in danger. Ning Fan consumed a 7th revolution healing pill and slowly healed his injuries. After his injuries were healed, he stood up and began to examine the stone chamber. This place seemed to be an art room. There were many paintings hanging on the walls. There was still a faint fragrance of ink in the room. On the table at the corner of the wall, there was a painting brush and paper. The stone chamber seemed to be an enclosed space with no exit. There was a great divine ability in the wall. Ning Fan tried using his wind mist finger, but couldn't leave a mark on the wall, let alone destroying the wall and leaving this place. This place seemed to be the abode of a powerful cultivator. Ning Fan looked at all the items in the room and didn't find anything special. The only special thing was the paintings on the wall. All of them were landscape paintings, and there were 7 of them. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out a scroll of portrait painting. It was the painting he got from Lu Daochen. It was drawn by an immortal painting for Lu Wu. Chang Shang's painting and Lu Wu's portrait weren't drawn by the same person, but they both had a certain charm in them, as if they could turn illusion into reality. Is this the divine ability of a true immortal? It can turn a painting into reality. Ning Fan pondered for a moment, and kept the 7 paintings on the wall into his storage pouch. After taking away the 7 paintings, he discovered that there was a groove hidden behind each of the 7 paintings. In each groove, there was a crystal that was half black and half white. The crystal was filled with extremely powerful Dao power of life and death. Ning Fan couldn't help but think of the time crystal on the 8th floor of the Lost World Tower. These 7 crystals might be the life and death crystal. The time crystal in the Lost World Tower in the lower world was prepared for the cultivators of the lower world. The energy it contained was far less than the life and death crystal in front of him. Ning Fan stared at the 7 crystals blankly. All of a sudden, the 7 crystals turned into rays of light and flew into Ning Fan's body, staying inside his dantian. There was also a voice that resounded in Ning Fan's mind. The people of the later generations who can enter the fish painting chamber are considered to be fated with me. After refining all 7 crystals, you can leave the stone chamber. This is a great opportunity. Don't underestimate it. Ning Fan was slightly stunned. He wanted to take out the crystals from his dantian, but he couldn't do it at all. He sat cross-legged on the ground and tried to refine the crystals. However, he realized that his current cultivation realm was almost insufficient to do so. In order to refine the crystals, he must first improve his cultivation realm. If he doesn't refine the crystals, he would never be able to leave the stone chamber. After absorbing the power of the green yang, he could stay in the profound Yin world for around 3 months. Even if he borrows the power of the profound Yin world, he had no idea how many years he would need to spend to improve his cultivation realm. It was not something that could be achieved in a short period of time. I didn't expect to encounter such an unforeseen event during this trip. Ning Fan's gaze fell on Hong Yi and the little Demoness. He continued. Fortunately, they are fine. I don't want to see that kind of illusion again. Since there's no other way to get out of here, I'll just improve my cultivation realm here. The ancient divine incense, dragon soul, dragon pearl and Dao crystal. It's time for me to refine all of these things. Ning Fan's body flashed and entered the profound Yin world. On top of the thatched cottage, Luo Yu had already refined half of the power of the demon divine pill, and recovered her cultivation base to the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan found a secluded place on the desolate continent, and opened up a temporary abode. He took out a large number of Dao crystals, and placed them inside the abode. However, he was not in a hurry to refine these Dao crystals. He took out a furnace outside the abode, and placed the ancient golden sword inside the furnace along with the profound yellow crystals. He did not know how many years he would have to cultivate in this place. He could increase the speed of the ancient golden sword while he was at it. I'll let the ancient sword devour the profound yellow crystals on its own. Ningfan did not have the time to care about it. He entered the temporary abode and sat down with his legs crossed. Then he waved his hand and took some Dao crystals, and began to slowly refine them. There were a total of 1,000,000 Dao crystals in the abode. If he refines all of them, his cultivation realm would receive a terrifying increase. Chapter 668. After absorbing the Azure Sun Spirit, one could stay in the profound Yin world for 3 months. Every time Ningfan stayed in the profound Yin world for 3 months, he would have to stay in the outside world for 3 days. His current magical power was 127,000 yuan hui, 73,000 away from the 3-shattering realm. Even with the help of the profound Yin world, Ningfan could only refine 60,000 pieces of Dao crystals in a month. After breaking into 2, even a 1-apertured ancient god would need to refine 10 doctrine gems to increase his magic power by 1 yuan hui. After 3 months, Ningfan's magic power had reached 145,000 yuan hui. After being forced to leave the profound Yin world, Ningfan looked at the ice bed and was slightly surprised. Hong Yi and the little demon girl had yet to wake up. Logically speaking, no matter how heavily injured the 2 women were, they should have woken up by now. Ningfan carefully looked at the 2 ladies and realized that even though they were in deep sleep, the Dao marks of life and death in their bodies seemed to be increasing bit by bit. His injuries seemed to have healed by 70 to 80%, and his complexion was also very rosy. When he looked at the ice bed again, he frowned. At first, he didn't look at it carefully, but now that he looked at it again, he realized that the ice bed contained a dreamy and illusory power, as if it could comprehend life and death. Ningfan didn't know what exactly this power was. Because of this power, the 2 women were temporarily unable to awaken, and were still in a deep slumber. Although they were in a deep sleep, the benefits that the 2 women received were not small. This sleep, with the help of the ice bed, increased their understanding of life and death. I might as well train here for quite a few years, so I'll let the 2 of them sleep for now. This sleep will be extremely beneficial to them. This ice bed is a treasure. It can allow Master to comprehend life and death in his dreams. I wonder if you can take it with you before you leave this place? The foundation of the ice bed was connected to the stone chamber, as if they were one entity. Ningfan was not confident that he could take it away. After a moment of silence, he sat cross-legged in the stone room, and began to adjust his breathing. 3 days later, he returned to the profound Yin world to cultivate. The number of Dao crystals decreased bit by bit. After refining 730,000 Dao crystals, Ningfan's magic power had reached 200,000 yuan hui. He could already break through the bottleneck of the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm at any time. He had been trapped in the stone chamber for a year. In the profound Yin world, Ningfan consumed 2 space-breaking pills, and began to break through the bottleneck of the 3rd void-breaking realm. At the moment he broke through the bottleneck, Ningfan's magic power increased by 15,000 periods. At the same time, he welcomed the Sovereign Lightning Tribulation and the Yin Wind Tribulation. The Sovereign Lightning Tribulation was merely nourishment for the Sovereign Qi Soaring Dragon, and the Yin Wind Tribulation was nothing to be afraid of. When Ningfan easily broke through the 2nd tribulation, a pink undergarment fell from the sky all of a sudden. It carried the body fragrance of a young lady. Is this another goodwill from the heavenly Tao? Ningfan kept the dudu and continued with his cultivation. He didn't know that at this moment, in a certain space, a naked little loli was playing in the lake, and she was crying loudly in shame and indignation. This time, she no longer wanted to care about Ningfan's tribulation. How long had it been? Ningfan had already broken through to the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm again. Anyway, he would certainly overcome the lightning and wind tribulations easily. She had already become numb to it. When Ningfan was undergoing his tribulation, she was playing in the lake. Both of them had nothing to do with each other. However, her hand slipped and her undergarment actually sank to the bottom of the lake. It fell from the sky and landed on Ningfan. She didn't want to live, How could a girl's undergarment be given to others so casually? Stinky Ning Fan. You're bullying me again. Ah. After breaking through to the third tribulation, the effect of absorbing the Dao crystals was halved once again. Every time he absorbed 20 Dao crystals, he could only increase his magic power by 1 yuan. However, Ning Fan's speed of refining the Dao crystals had greatly improved. In the profound Yin world, he could refine 100,000 Dao crystals in a month. If he were in the outside world, he would need 8 years to refine 100,000 Dao crystals. Ning Fan gave it a try. With his third heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivation base, it was still not enough for him to refine 7 pieces of life and death crystals. Since he had no other choice, he could only continue cultivating. The number of Dao crystals began to decrease rapidly. After refining 3.7 million Dao crystals, Ning Fan's magic power had reached 400,000 yuan. Now he could start breaking through to the fourth tribulation realm. It had been 4 years since he was trapped in the stone chamber. With the power of the void-breaking pill, Ning Fan began to break through the bottleneck of the fourth tribulation realm. This bottleneck was obviously much harder to break than he had imagined. After entering the profound Yin world for 3 months, Ning Fan still could not break through this bottleneck. After being forced to leave the profound Yin world, Ning Fan decided to break through the bottleneck in the stone chamber. This time, it actually took him 3 years. On the 7th year of being trapped in the stone chamber, Ning Fan entered the profound Yin world and officially broke through to the fourth tribulation realm. The sovereign lightning tribulation, the Yin wind tribulation. Then hidden weapons fell from the sky and a cloth bear fell from the sky. This cloth bear was covered with saliva marks. It also had the faint body fragrance of a young lady. It seemed like a young lady often hugged it to sleep. Is this also a gesture of goodwill? Ning Fan was speechless. He had already experienced too many messy things. He was already used to it. After keeping the cloth bear, Ning Fan tried to refine the crystal of life and death. However, he realized that his cultivation base was still far from enough. It was not enough for him to refine the crystal. So, I can only continue cultivating. In a certain space, a little Lolita was looking at the surface of the lake with an aggrieved expression. When she looked at Ning Fan, her eyes turned into peaches from crying. Give me back my Xiaoguai. That's my Xiaoguai. Woo woo. She really wanted to chop off her own hand. Why does Ning Fan's hand have to drop something every time he goes through a tribulation? Woo woo, I won't send tribulations to the lower world anymore. I want the imperial monarch to find someone else to send tribulations to. I don't want to see Ning Fan anymore. Woo woo, she ran to the Master Calamity Palace and complained to someone else. The heavenly Dao Dao spirit of the lower world was temporarily replaced by someone else. Finally, she did not need to send tribulations to Ning Fan anymore. After breaking through to the 4th level of fragmentation realm, Ning Fan's magic power increased by 20,000 yuan hui, reaching 420,000 yuan hui. After that, he began to break through to the 5th level of fragmentation realm. There were still 67 million Dao crystals left. Ning Fan spent 5 years to refine all of them. His magic power had reached more than 680,000 yuan hui, but the Dao crystals were all used up. Breaking through to the 5th level of fragmentation realm required 1 million yuan hui of magic power. Fortunately, Ning Fan still had a lot of pills that he snatched from others. They could increase void fragmentation realm magic power. However, after consuming them, his magic power only reached 700,000 yuan hui. He had been trapped in the stone chamber for 12 years. After spending 1 year, Ning Fan refined the 10 golden crystals of the ancient divine incense in his body. His magic power had increased to 740,000 yuan hui. He had a total of 581 dragon souls. A 9th grade dragon soul could increase 1,000 units of magic power. A 9th grade dragon soul was equivalent to 10,000 units of magic power. 581 dragon souls were supreme treasures to low-level cultivators. To him, however, their effect was almost negligible. He pondered for a moment and kept the sealing pot. He did not devour the dragon souls. It was better to leave these dragon souls for Ji He and the other women to devour slowly. With these dragon souls, even Bai Su, who had just stepped into the Tao as a mortal, would have an easy time attaining the divine transformation realm in this lifetime. After all, breaking through to the divine transformation realm only required 10,000 units of magic power. A first-grade dragon soul was enough. He had a total of 68 Dragon Balls. Among them, there were 2 Yin-Yang Dragon Balls and 3 first-grade Dragon Balls. The rest were all below the second grade. In total, these Dragon Balls could increase his magic power by nearly 250,000 yuan hui. Of course, Ning Fan was an ancient god with one orifice. If he devours the Dragon Balls, the effect would be doubled. After refining these Dragon Balls, I can break through to the 5th level of fragmentation realm. I wonder if I can refine the crystal of life and death while at the 5th level of fragmentation realm. If I can't. Another 6 years passed. Ning Fan had refined all of the Dragon Balls, and his magic power had increased to 1.18 million yuan hui. After consuming the last 5 space-breaking pills, he left the profound Yin world. He sat cross-legged in the stone chamber, and began to focus on breaking through to the 5th level of fragmentation realm. It took him 4 years just to break through the bottleneck. At the moment when he broke through the bottleneck, he entered the profound Yin world to undergo his tribulation. Sovereign Lightning Tribulation, Yin Wind Tribulation. After that, there were no more rewards from the heavenly Tao. That little girl seems to be gone. Ning Fan looked at the massive black and white ring in the sky and muttered to himself. After breaking through to the 5th level of fragmentation realm, Ning Fan's magic power increased by 30,000 yuan hui. It reached 1.21 million yuan hui. It had been 23 years since he was trapped in the stone chamber. Now that his cultivation base had reached this level, he already had the strength to fight against Moksha Sovereign. He tried to refine the crystal of life and death in his body. However, he helplessly realized that his cultivation base was still slightly lacking if he wanted to refine this crystal. If he could break through to the 6th level of fragmentation realm, this gap would no longer exist. So I have no choice but to consume the emergence pill. Ning Fan sighed softly. The emergence pill had an extremely small probability of helping a void fragmentation realm cultivator to become an immortal in a single step. It also had a 100% chance of helping a void fragmentation realm cultivator directly advance to the next heavenly layer. To him, an emergence pill was equivalent to a heavenly layer. Consuming the 5 shattering pills would allow one to break through the 6 shattering pills. Consuming the 8th shatterer would allow one to break through to the 9th shatterer level. If consumed by 9 splitters, they could reach the peak of 9 splitter in a single step, and thus reach immortal ascension. Naturally, it was better to take this pill as late as possible. However, he had no other choice. In order to leave this place, he could only consume the emergence pill to raise his cultivation. He had spent a total of 10 years to refine the emergence pill. Without the help of the profound Yin world, he would need to spend 1,000 years to refine this pill. For others, it would probably take thousands of years. 3 months in the profound Yin world, 3 days in the outside world, and the cycle repeated. His magic power was increasing bit by bit towards 3 million yuan. The moment Ning Fan refined the emergence pill, he did not even attempt to break through the bottleneck on his own. Instead, he directly broke through the bottleneck of the 6th shattering realm. At the moment when he broke through the bottleneck, his body floated in the air, as if he was about to ascend to immortality. He was lucky enough to trigger the emergence pill's tiny chance of becoming an immortal. If this matter were to spread out, it was unknown how many old monsters in the 9 worlds would be envious. In the profound Yin world, Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the ground and raised his head to look at the sky. The probability of triggering the emergence elixir to become an immortal shocked him. However, on second thought, he felt that everything was within reason. His physique could be said to be perfect. He cultivated both the god, demon, and demon body at the same time, awakening the ancient god and ancient demon bodies, and even perfecting the lesser 5 elements constitution. With such a perfect physique, he could be considered to have the most top-notch cultivation potential. It was naturally not surprising that the emergence pill could allow him to become an immortal directly. However, Ning Fan knitted his brows tightly. He tried to assimilate the life and death crystal inside of him, and found that now that he was a sixth demolisher, he was strong enough to escape. The path to immortality was right beneath his feet. As long as he was willing, he could borrow the power of the emergence elixir and ascend to immortality in one go. But he didn't want to. Without the Tao of life and death, even if he could become an immortal now, he would only be relying on pills to forcefully increase his cultivation base. Even though he could become an immortal, he lacked the link of perceiving life and death. If he really becomes an immortal, he would probably be stuck at the life immortal realm for the rest of his life. Life immortal realm experts were not his only enemies. If his cultivation base stops at the life immortal realm, he would definitely regret it in the future. After taking a deep breath, Ning Fan slowly dispersed the momentum of ascending to immortality in his physical body. His eyes gradually became clear. He did not care about the chance to become an immortal that was envied by tens of thousands of people. He stood up in the aura force of the sixth Demolisher Realm Sword. He went through the Sovereign Lightning Tribulation and broke the Yin Wind Tribulation. His magic power eventually stopped at 3.05 million yuan. As for his spirit sense, it had just broken through to the seventh heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. If he transforms and uses the soul extraction technique, his cultivation base would instantly reach the peak of the seventh heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. The mountain world was nothing to be afraid of. The Three Worlds sect was also nothing to be afraid of. As for Moksha Sovereign, he was even less of a threat. However, there was a small flaw in his plan. After being trapped in the stone room for 33 years, Ning Fan had to rely on all kinds of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures to improve his cultivation base. Only by going through real battles and massacres could his magic power solidify again. Throughout his journey, he had relied on the magic power he had accumulated through battles to improve his cultivation base by borrowing pills and pills. After going through 4 sovereign lightning tribulations in a row, Ning Fan's flying dragon of sovereign qi had already grown to 6 zhonglong. The sovereign qi aura force contained in this flying dragon was comparable to the total of 60 traces of sovereign qi. Even if 60 Rain Sovereigns stood together, their sovereign qi aura force would not be stronger than Ning Fan's. Ning Fan had already wasted too much time in this place. He didn't want to spend any more time here. Counting the time, there were only a few years left before the opening of the ancient heavenly court. He wondered how 7 Apricot City, Yu Country and the Rain World were doing. Ning Fan walked out of his temporary cave dwelling. The ancient golden sword had already absorbed the power of the profound yellow crystal on its own, greatly increasing its speed. If this ancient sword moves at full speed, even ordinary rogue immortals would not be able to catch up to him. After keeping the ancient sword, Ning Fan went to check on Luo Yu. She had already refined the power of the Demon Divine Pill. She had been paying attention to Ning Fan's cultivation. After refining the Demon Divine Pill, Luo Yu's cultivation base recovered to the 6th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. She looked at Ning Fan with a faint smile. Her eyes sparkled. Little brother is really amazing. You're already at the 6th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. With your current cultivation base, I wonder if Moksha Sovereign would flee in fear if we're in the ancient heavenly court. You should know that he bullied you badly in 7 Apricot City in the past. Moksha Sovereign is nothing to be afraid of. As for you, your cultivation base has yet to recover to the peak 9 Shattering Realm. I also haven't found a strong enough physical body for you. I'm afraid you still have to wait for a long time before you can truly be resurrected. Ning Fan said apologetically. There's no hurry. Really? I'm not in a hurry at all. Or are you in a hurry to chase me away? Luo Yu looked at Ning Fan in a flirtatious manner. Her eyes were filled with teasing. If you like it, you can stay in the profound Yin world for the rest of your life. I will never chase you away. Ning Fan sighed. With a sway of his body, he left the profound Yin world. He knew that Luo Yu would eventually leave, because of the hatred that could never be erased. The reason why Luo Yu did not tell him who her enemy was because he was still too weak. He could do whatever he wanted in the lower worlds. However, if he goes to the upper worlds, he would probably just be an insignificant speck of dust. When Luo Yu was at her peak, she was at the Shikong realm. Even though she had such a powerful cultivation base, she was still pursuing the yin-yang locket to find a way to increase her strength. This was enough to prove that her enemy was far stronger than the Shikong realm. Perhaps it was an immortal emperor, or even stronger than an immortal emperor. Ningfan returned to the outside world. He sat in a meditative position at the corner of the ice bed where the two ladies were sleeping, and began to refine the 7 pieces of life and death crystals. After breaking through to the 6th shattering realm, he could clearly sense the powerful energy and magic power contained within the crystals. They were extremely pure Dao power without any magic power. It did not matter whether one refined Dao power in the profound Yin world or not. The profound Yin world could speed up the circulation of magic power, but it could not speed up a cultivator's comprehension of Dao power. This ice bed could help one comprehend life and death. The effect of refining the life and death crystals in this place was much better than in the profound Yin world. In the first year, Ningfan refined the first piece of life and death crystal, and there were 100 more traces of Dao marks of life and death. In the second year, Ningfan refined the second piece of life and death crystal. The third year, the fourth year, the fifth year. On the 7th year, Ningfan refined the last piece of the life and death crystal. The number of Dao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit had reached 1220. At the moment when he refined all of the life and death crystals, Ningfan lost consciousness and fell into a dream. In the profound Yin world, Luo Yu's expression changed, revealing a rare look of astonishment. Life and death tribulation. He actually triggered the life and death tribulation. This is a great tribulation that cultivators in ancient times experienced when they become immortals. There is a great opportunity in this tribulation. Could it be that the 7 pieces of life and death crystals helped him trigger the life and death tribulation? After cultivating for 100 years, Ningfan entered dreams to look at life and death. A dream in the outside world would only last for 3 days. However, he experienced 3 lifetimes and 3 lives in the life and death tribulation. Those were 3 illusory dreams that seemed to be real. On a cultivation planet called Vermilion Bird Planet, in a certain cultivation country, a white-robed scholar who was sleeping soundly at a table suddenly woke up in a tavern in the outskirts of a city. There were many customers in the tavern. The fragrance of wine wafted in the air, and there was also a hint of golden grain rice. Who am I? The white-robed scholar's eyes were blank. He couldn't remember that he was Ningfan. This was the life and death tribulation. No one would remember who they were in the life and death tribulation. When they remember who they were, they would be able to break through the tribulation. Brother Lu, could it be that you've become stupid from sleeping? You and I went to the capital for the imperial examinations together. We were tired from the long journey, so we decided to take a nap in this tavern. How come you can't remember who you are after a nap? Zhang Sheng, who was wearing a green robe, looked at Ningfan and shook his head with a smile. My surname is Lu. I am going to the capital for the imperial examinations. Why do I have to rush for the imperial examinations? Why do people live and why do they die? Ningfan's eyes were blank. Of course, we are rushing for the imperial examinations to obtain scholarly honors, obtain a rich future, protect our descendants and bring honor to our ancestors, Zhang Sheng said with a smile. Riches and future. What's the use of these? Everyone will die eventually. What's the use of these? Compared to obtaining riches and honor, I want to know who I am more. I want to know what life and death are. Ningfan's expression was very serious and he didn't seem to be joking. Zhang Sheng was displeased. He thought that Ningfan was just joking, but now it seemed that Ningfan really didn't have the ambition to obtain scholarly honors. Since Brother Lu looks down on riches and honor, I guess you don't want to go to the capital with me for the imperial examinations, right? Yes, I don't want to obtain scholarly honors. Ningfan nodded. If that's the case, you are not my friend. Our friendship as schoolmates will end today. Zhang Sheng coldly snorted. He carried the bookshelf bag on his back and untied a green colt next to the willow tree outside the tavern. Ningfan looked at Zhang Sheng leaving, but he didn't look disappointed. Indeed, he wasn't Zhang Sheng's friend and Zhang Sheng wasn't his friend. The two of them had different goals and couldn't work together. Haha, this little brother is really interesting. Just now, he was full of passion and said that he wanted to pass the imperial examinations and bring honor to his ancestors. Who would have thought that after a nap beside the golden millet tree, he actually doesn't want to go to the capital to take the imperial examinations? Could it be that he knows that he won't be able to obtain scholarly honors, so he wants to go home and farm? A customer said with a smile. Farming is not a bad choice. There are always great daos hidden in the wilderness, but the current me doesn't want to farm. I only want to comprehend life and death. Ning Fan stood up and glanced at the bag. He slightly frowned but didn't take it. In the bag, there was a cotton coat, a cloth shirt, 10 taels of silver, the pass and more than 10 books. I don't need these. Count them as wine money. Give me some good wine. As for my horse, I don't need it either. Just change it to wine. The tavern owner was startled. Then he put on a smile and took out 7 jars of century-old wine from the cellar. The other things weren't worth much, but the green colt was a good horse. 10 taels of silver wasn't a small amount, so the tavern owner was naturally very happy to do business with Ning Fan. These wines are very heavy. I wonder if you have a servant to carry them? And this pass, it's better if you don't throw it away. Without it, there will be a lot of trouble. I don't need a servant or a pass. Although I don't remember who I am. Carrying these jars is a piece of cake for me. Ning Fan flicked his sleeves and kept the 7 jars of wine. His figure flickered, and he vanished without a trace, drifting away. Clang! The wine bowls in the hands of countless customers fell to the ground. The tavern owner was dumbfounded. In the next moment, countless people knelt on the ground and kowtowed in the direction of Ning Fan's departure. Immortal! Immortal master! I didn't expect that scholar to be an immortal master. No wonder he didn't want to take the scholarly examination. Scholarly rank is useless to an immortal master. It's over. I just laughed at that immortal master. I wonder if he will grant me death. I'm so scared. The customer who laughed at Ning Fan was now pale. He didn't know that Ning Fan disdained to bully a mortal. Ning Fan flew all the way, passing through a few cultivation countries. His eyes were blank as he still couldn't remember who he was. Drizzle gradually fell from the sky and the night fell. In the rainy night, there was a broken temple in front of him. Countless people were taking shelter from the rain in this temple. Chapter 669. It was an abandoned temple. The red paint was peeling and the door knocker was rusty. Outside the temple, it was raining at night, giving off a feeling of desolation and loneliness. Inside the temple, 5 people wearing straw raincoats started a bonfire. They took out some dry rations and chatted loudly while eating. Ning Fan sat at the corner of the temple. He had no intention of talking to anyone. His clothes were not wet at all. With the strength of his rain intent, he would not be drenched by the rain if he did not want to. Kid, you look like a scholar. Why didn't you bring any luggage with you? Could it be that you were robbed by bandits? A burly man in a straw raincoat looked at Ning Fan from top to bottom. When he saw that Ning Fan had nothing on him, he could not help but burst into laughter. Come, help us gather some firewood and add some fuel to the fire. I will let you eat some meat. Another burly man who was gnawing on half a roasted chicken said with a laugh. His words were filled with sarcasm. The 5 of them were people from the Green Forest. They had never looked up to a weak scholar like Ning Fan, but they were making fun of him. Ning Fan glanced at them indifferently, and did not say anything. Naturally, he would not add fuel to their firewood and beg for food. He disdained to beg. What he liked was to rob others. However, he disdained to rob a few mortals. He had his own principles. Seeing that Ning Fan was ignoring them, the 5 burly men in woven rush capes lost their interest. They ignored Ning Fan and began to talk about other things. Ning Fan looked at the rain outside the temple, and his state of mind gradually became calm. He could not remember who he was, but he remembered all the insights he had about the rain. He remembered all of his divine arts. He remembered all of his killings. The only thing he could not remember was who he was. Suddenly Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He saw a white-robed young man walking slowly in the rain. The young man had an ordinary appearance, but when he walked, he naturally had the temperament of someone who would go through life and death together. That young man was not far from the spirit-severing realm. His cultivation base was secondary, but his Tao of life and death was slightly higher than Ning Fan. This man's spirit-severing realm intent realm is actually life and death. Ning Fan's expression did not change, but his heart was shocked. Since ancient times, life and death were the Tao that immortals needed to comprehend. However, there was a nascent soul realm cultivator, who entered the spirit-severing realm through life and death. Although this person's cultivation was low, his comprehension wasn't any weaker than his. The white-robed youth frowned as he looked at the 5 men in woven rush capes gathered around the bonfire. His life and death intent domain had a sign of starting to change in this rainy night. However, the rude behavior of these 5 men had destroyed this atmosphere. He was about to find a corner to sit down when his gaze suddenly changed. He saw Ning Fan sitting in the corner, looking at him with a smile. Ning Fan was originally here, but his chi was too restrained. For a moment, the white-robed young man nearly ignored him. The white-clothed youth had rarely encountered such a thing in his life, except for a few powerful figures. Like Situ Nan, like young Kizi. This person is a cultivator, and his cultivation base far surpasses mine. However, he doesn't seem to have any ill intentions towards me. The white-robed young man sat beside Ning Fan's. He nodded slightly to Ning Fan's but didn't say anything. He lifted his head to look at the rain outside the temple. Ning Fan also did not say much. He was also looking at the rain, as if any unnecessary words would destroy the beauty of this rainy night. I've finally found shelter from the rain. A voice resounded in the temple. Immediately, another person entered the temple to seek shelter from the rain. It was a tall and burly man wearing a thin robe. As soon as the burly man entered the temple, his eyes swept across the people in the temple. However, his gaze stopped on Ning Fan and the white-robed youth. Oh, I didn't expect to see someone with the same cultivation base in this temple. My name is Emoji. How do I address you two friends? I'm from the mountains. I don't have any name. Just call me Dunyo. The white-robed youth cupped his fists and said, I don't know who I am. Some people call me Lu Sheng, but I have a feeling that this isn't my real name. Ning Fan also cupped his fists at the burly man. He could vaguely see that this burly man was extraordinary. This person's intent domain was very similar to Yin Bushu's. It was the intent domain of forgetfulness. However, the difference between his and Yin Bushu's cultivation base was like heaven and earth. This person's cultivation base wasn't even at the first step of Tao cultivation. He wasn't even at the life immortal realm. Haha. Interesting. Could it be that this scholar really met a bandit and was beaten silly? How could he not remember who he is? The burly men in woven rush capes laughed. Emoji, on the other hand, faintly sensed something from Ning Fan, but he wasn't too sure. Then he smiled and said, So Brother Lu also doesn't know who you are. You are very similar to me. It's rare to meet two people with the same cultivation base here. Why don't we sit down and discuss the Tao in this rainy night? Discuss the Tao. Ning Fan's eyes were sometimes blank and sometimes clear. Even though he didn't know who he was, he knew that he was pursuing the Tao of life and death. Discussing the Tao was good too. As for wine, he had bought quite a lot of it. It would be great if there was good wine during the Tao discussion. Ning Fan didn't say much. He flicked his sleeve and took out 3 jars of wine. He took one for himself and gave one to Emoji and Dunyo. The white-robed youth who was called Dunyo smiled lightly. He took the jar of wine and gulped it down. He was a free and easy person. Emoji was startled. He also took the wine and laughed heartily, drinking it to his heart's content. Then he looked at Dunyo and said, Brother Dunyo's cultivation base is shocking. If I'm not mistaken, you should have reached the realm of soul-locking intent domain. You have a chance to break through Yin Shao. Dunyo's expression changed slightly. He revealed a cautious expression and avoided talking about his own cultivation base. Not far away from the campfire, one of the few burly men sneered loudly. What are you guys talking about? We don't understand a single word of it. What's soul-locking intent domain? You still have a chance to break through Yin Shao? Are you guys crazy? Emoji looked at Ning Fan again. After taking a closer look, his eyes became more and more serious. His seriousness was not because of Ning Fan's cultivation base, but because he had noticed something else. Brother Lu's cultivation base is also shocking. What surprised me the most is that Brother Lu doesn't seem to be someone from this world. Brother Lu seems to have come from outside the defying mortal world. No, Brother Lu comes from outside the four great worlds. You are a cultivator from the outer world. May I know which immortal region Brother Lu came from? Ning Fan's eyes were stunned, and he said with a little confusion, I don't know. The burly men beside the bonfire laughed again. Haha. What inner world? What outer world? What outer world? These people are really crazy. Emoji smiled faintly. He was not angry. What you said is right. The word crazy is very well used. If one is not crazy, it would naturally be difficult to comprehend the heavenly Tao. If one is not crazy, who would seek the art of immortality? This is the saying that if heaven desires something, there must be a desire. The burly man beside the bonfire frowned and scolded. He really is a madman. I don't understand a single word of it. Emoji could not help but laugh. He shook his head gently and looked at Denyo. Brother Denyo, do you understand? Denyo said, Brother, there is a profound meaning in your words. I don't understand. But I think. The word crazy. The land isn't good. It's better to use infatuation. Well said. The word infatuation. Very good. If the people of our generation don't have infatuation, they will definitely not be able to achieve the right result. You will definitely not be able to cultivate to fruition, and the heavenly Tao will be destroyed. Emoji stopped laughing and looked at Ning Fan. What do you think of the word infatuation? Infatuation. Ning Fan's eyes became even more dazed. Whether I am crazy or infatuated, I can still pursue the Tao. However, my Tao is obsession. My obsession is in my heart. That's why I became a devil. Obsession. Emoji and Denyo revealed a thoughtful expression. Obsession was being trapped by love and being bewitched by the Tao. It was because love could defy the heavens. Obsession was locking the love in one's heart. One would rather have the heart devil in one's heart than to retreat or give up. Obsession. Where were we just now? I was careless and forgot everything. Emoji's face suddenly showed a dazed expression. So you really are a madman. The burly men beside the bonfire laughed. Forget it. It's fine if you have forgotten. I am Emoji. How do I address you two fellow Taoists? Denyo. Denyo's eyes flickered as if he had discovered something. Maybe my surname is Lu. Maybe not. Ning Fan was at a loss again. Emoji nodded his head. He looked at the rainy night outside and praised. The beauty of a rainy night lies in its artistic conception. It lies in its endless life. The flowers and grass absorb the water vapor. The original death intent will also quietly flow away. This is the beauty of a rainy night and also the taste of life. Outside the temple, the sound of rain falling could be heard. Occasionally, lightning would flash across the sky, illuminating the rainy night. The bonfire inside the temple flickered between light and darkness, illuminating the surroundings. It was like the transition between life and death. The change between light and darkness seemed to contain the Tao of life and death. Light was life and darkness was death. In the flickering of light and darkness, life and death would intertwine. What is life? Just as Denyo was about to ask this question, Ning Fan had already asked it. Ning Fan's heart was at a loss. It was the confusion of not being able to comprehend life and death. Emoji pointed at the bonfire and said, This fire is life. Why? I don't know what life is, but I have often heard mortals say make fire, make fire. I think this fire is life. Madman. This time, the burly men beside the bonfire looked at Emoji with a strange expression. What is death? Ning Fan asked again. Just as Emoji was about to answer, his eyes suddenly became confused again. After a while, he looked around blankly. Where were we before? Without waiting for Ning Fan and Denyo to speak, a burly man beside the bonfire immediately said, That scholar just asked you what is death. Emoji looked at Ning Fan apologetically. He hesitated for a moment and asked, I think you already know my name. May I know how to address you? Another burly man beside the bonfire said with a smile. He has a bad memory like you. He can't remember who he is. He only knows that his surname is Liu. The apologetic look in Emoji's eyes became thicker. Ever since I comprehended the heavenly Tao, my memory has been deteriorating. I hope Brother Liu can forgive me. This person really comprehended the intent of forgetfulness. Daniel pondered. Hey, you haven't said what death is. Go on, it's interesting. A burly man beside the bonfire urged. What is death? Death is death. If a person dies, they die. If their heart dies, they forget. This is death. Today there is rootless water. The water in this bottomless land is life. In the future, when the rootless water is lost, the water in this bottomless land is death. There is no vitality and no flow. This is the so-called stagnant water. Emoji pointed at the burly men beside the bonfire and said, Today they can be happy, angry, sad and happy. This is life. In the future, they won't be happy, angry, sad or happy. They won't be able to escape the cycle of samsara. This is death. Emoji pointed at the petal cushion inside the temple and said, When the statue of the god in this temple is here, the temple is alive. Now that the statue has disappeared, it is death. Speaking until here, he stood up and pointed at the sky. This rain is born from the sky and dies on the earth. The process in between is the life of the rain. The reason why I look at the rain is not to look at the sky or the earth. I'm not looking at the rain, but the life of the rain. This is life and death. After listening to Emoji's profound words, the confusion in Daniel's heart disappeared. He seemed to have understood something. He stood up and cupped his fists at Emoji. At this moment, Daniel had yet to attain spirit-severing realm, but he could almost follow Emoji through life and death. The blankness in Ningfan's eyes faded a little, but he still couldn't understand it completely. He always felt that Emoji's words were one-sided. He talked about the death of the temple, the death of the rain, the death of mortals, the death of flowers, trees and humans, but he didn't mention the death of immortals. For those who are at the peak of the Tao, they might seem immortal on the surface, but in reality, they will still die, right? If that's the case, what is immortality? Ningfan suddenly asked. This question suddenly turned into two thunderbolts that exploded in Daniel and Emoji's mind. Daniel was at a loss again when he just understood the meaning of life and death. He had never thought about this question before. Emoji's expression changed. His master was a peerless expert. He had never thought that his master would fall one day. Would he die? Would he die? He thought that his understanding of the heavenly Tao was profound, but the heavenly Tao that he saw was still one-sided. Did the immortality that he pursued not exist from the beginning? The death of mortals and cultivators should be different from the death of fourth-step cultivators. The death of a fourth-step cultivator should have touched the origin of Tao. All of a sudden, Emoji seemed to have realized something. He looked at Ningfan with surprise. I know now. The reason why you can appear in the defying earth world is because he had heard from his master that there was a fourth-step supremacy among the experts of the outer world, who transformed his body into heaven and earth and used his dream to transform his reincarnation. The reincarnation cycle of that person had a life and death tribulation that could help cultivators peek into the supreme great Tao. The Ningfan in front of them might be a cultivator who was undergoing the life and death tribulation in that immortal region. The Ningfan they saw was not real. What Ningfan saw was also not real. One side was real while the other side was definitely an illusion. Both of them could never coexist in this rainy night. I still don't understand the Tao of life and death. Even if I step on the path of life and death, I might still not understand it. Stepping on the path of life and death is just the first step to thoroughly understand life and death. Many life immortals haven't even achieved this first step. However, I seem to have remembered who I am. Brother Mo is right. As long as the heart is not dead, everything can be recalled. Is this the fortune that I obtained after refining the 7 pieces of life and death crystals? Life and death tribulation. I am Ningfan. The obsession in my heart can't be erased even by reincarnation. This life and death tribulation also can't deceive my heart. Ningfan pointed his finger, and the entire world shattered like glass. Even though Moji's words did not touch upon the origin of Tao, it gave Ning Fan a lot of enlightenment. There were 500 more Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit, making a total of 1,720 lines. The scenery in front of him changed rapidly. The first stage of the life and death tribulation had been broken. It was a very good Tao discussion. According to Emoji, I don't belong to the same reincarnation cycle as them. Perhaps I won't be able to meet them again. This life and death tribulation is really mysterious. It actually allowed me to meet people from other reincarnations. Is this the technique of immortal sovereign Zido? Ning Fan's body gradually dissipated and the world began to condense again. In a place called the Ning family village in the Aparagodania continent, there was a local tycoon. People called him Old Rich Ning. According to the rumors in the village, this man had 2 lovely wives, each as beautiful as a flower or jade. Within the Ning family village, in a certain deep courtyard, a man and 2 women were on the bed making love in a bedroom. The man was a handsome young man with fair skin. His eyes were filled with lust as he was conquering the bodies of the 2 beautiful women. Both of the women were extremely beautiful. One of them had black eyes that resembled black gemstones. Her name was Xiao'er. The other one had blood-red eyes and was enduring the young man's attack. Her name was Hong-er. That young man was Old Rich Ning. As for the 2 women, they were naturally his beautiful wives who were serving him in bed. While they were attacking each other, the young man suddenly stopped. He looked at the 2 beauties below him in disbelief. His facial expression was extremely ugly, as if he had swallowed a fly. Why am I here? Who am I? You are. Although I can't remember your names, I vaguely remember that I shouldn't do this to you. Our relationship hasn't reached this stage yet. My head hurts. Husband, why did you stop? Hurry up. Xiao'er's eyes were blurred. She was panting and her chest was slightly moving up and down. However, she was smiling slyly. You can't even do this? Didn't you want to fight with me for 300 rounds? Hong-er sneered. She moved her body and put something into it again. The veins on Old Rich Ning's forehead popped. He couldn't do it? He was actually rejected by Hong-er? Although he couldn't remember who he was, he remembered that he was the lord of the Ning family village. He was the husband of Hong-er and Xiao'er. It seemed natural for a husband to be like a fish in water. I'll let you see if your husband can't do it anymore. Old Rich Ning bent down and pressed down. His palms moved around the 2 women's bodies. After a bout of madness, it was already evening. The 2 women had already fallen asleep with satisfaction. Old Rich Ning got up and changed his clothes. He felt refreshed, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. He felt that he really shouldn't do this to the 2 women. However, the 2 women were his wives and concubines. Why couldn't he do this? In his memory, he had already done it with his children countless times. Why, it was as if he had forgotten something important. Old Master, the demon is here. A monk who claims to be from Tang Tang of the Eastern Land has brought 3 demons into the village. Monk. Demon? Old Rich Ning's eyes turned serious. He pushed the door open and a sharp aura condensed in his eyes. The servant girl who came to report the news thought that her master would be as timid as before. She didn't expect her master's eyes to be so sharp today. He wasn't afraid when he heard that the demons had entered the village. With me here, the Ning family village will be fine. Bring me to see the monk and the demon. The servant girl was stunned. Her master had never been so heroic. Why was he different today? He really wasn't afraid of the demon and wanted to see the demon. He even said that he wanted to protect the Ning family village. She led Ning Fan out of the house and searched for the monk and the demon. Suddenly, she heard a thunder-like roar. Hey, why can't I see anyone in such a big village? Come out for Grandpa Pig. Quickly serve good wine and dishes to show respect to your Grandpa Pig. A black bristled boar demon carried a rake and walked towards them casually. When he saw the extraordinary appearance of the servant girl in front of Ning Fan, his small eyes immediately turned green and filled with a wretched smile. How should I address you, miss? He went forward and tried to strike up a conversation with the servant girl. The servant girl was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Her body was trembling and she hugged old Rich Ning's thigh. Her eyes were asking for help. What does the name of my servant have to do with you? Old Rich Ning's left eye suddenly flashed with a purple-black light. A wave of demon ancestor aura suddenly pressed down on the black-bristled boar demon. The instant the boar demon came into contact with the demonic aura, his expression changed drastically. His demon blood uncontrollably trembled. You are the demon ancestor. You are the eternal immortal venerable. In the boar demon's impression, the demon ancestor was equivalent to the eternal immortal venerable. The eternal immortal venerable was someone who was at the peak of the second step of Tao cultivation. In the future, perhaps he should be called the immortal emperor. Of course, he was terrified. Wu Neng, don't be rude. A fair-skinned monk walked towards Ningfan and put his palms together. I come from the great Tang of the eastern lands. Since it's already late, I would like to stay in your manor for the night. I have 3 disciples and each of them has a stunning appearance. Please forgive me if they have disturbed you, Manor Lord. Old Rich Ning cupped his fists at the monk. Then his gaze shifted to the other 2 disciples behind the monk. Finally, his eyes fell on the monk. When he met the monk's clear eyes, Old Rich Ning seemed to have recalled something. I am Ningfan. Who is this monk? He's clearly just a mortal, but his eyes are as sharp as Meng Xuanzi's. Meng Xuanzi is the tablet-wielding immortal emperor. Is this person also an immortal emperor? May I know how to address you, elder? Ningfan cupped his fists and asked. The people of the world call me Xuanzang. You are different from the people of this world. You can call me Golden Cicada. As you expected, I was probably the immortal emperor you mentioned in my previous life. In this life, I'm just a mortal who wholeheartedly worships Buddha. Golden Cicada said with a smile. His eyes were empty, as if he could see through Ningfan's thoughts. This person, what a strange divine ability. Chapter 670. At night, Jin Chan and his 3 disciples rested in the Ning family manor. The 3 demon disciples of Jin Chan were arranged to stay in one of the empty courtyards in the manor. Jin Chan himself was invited to Ningfan's room for a talk by candlelight. As for Ningfan's 2 lovely wives, they had already returned to their own rooms to sleep. After the battle during the day, the 2 of them had suffered a lot. Perhaps they would not want to sleep for a few days. The candle flame flickered. Ningfan would occasionally cut the candle with a pair of scissors. He looked at Jin Chan without saying a word. Jin Chan also smiled without saying a word. It was as if the 2 of them were doing a silent meditation of nothingness. Amitba. Manor Lord's mind is indeed calm. You are indeed someone who has escaped from the tribulation. Is Manor Lord comprehending life and death in this tribulation? Jin Chan said with a smile. Yes. I have quite an understanding of life and death. My body and Tao have already become one. For those who have reached the first step of Tao cultivation, if they eat a mouthful of my flesh, they will understand life and death and become immortal. Buddhism is the law of fate. Since I am fated with Manor Lord, I am willing to sacrifice my cultivation to give Manor Lord a piece of flesh. No need. I would like to hear Elder Jin Chan's opinion on life and death. Ningfan shook his head. Manor Lord is indeed extraordinary. Jin Chan nodded and continued. What Manor Lord wants to know is which ring of the heavenly Tao is life and death. Which ring of the heavenly Tao? Ningfan frowned deeply. Mortals and those who have reached the first step of Tao cultivation are in the first ring of the heavenly Tao. If they die, their souls can enter samsara. If their souls die, they will lose the chance to be reincarnated and lose their true path forever. Their life is just a process of walking towards death step by step. Their death is a process of walking towards life step by step. Their life and death is a circle that constantly alternates and repeats. Therefore, there is a saying in Buddhism that everything is nothingness, like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow like dew or lightning. Their life and death are all illusions. Now, I am also in the first ring of the heavenly Tao. Life and death are just illusions. Ningfan pondered. The second step of Tao cultivation allows one to be listed on the immortal list and become an immortal. Their souls fused with their primordial spirits. When their bodies died, their primordial spirits remained. When their primordial spirits died, their souls also died. They would never be able to reincarnate. They had obtained immortality, so if they died, they would die forever and lose their true path forever. But for those who had attained Tao, if their Tao hadn't disappeared yet, they could be reborn with the help of the saints whose Tao had surpassed the second ring of the heavenly Tao. In the second step of Tao cultivation, their life and death is a straight line that extends endlessly. If this straight line stops extending one day, it will be the time of their death. The price of longevity is a long death. The price of immortality is immortality. Ning Fan's mind rumbled. The puzzle that had puzzled him for a long time was finally solved. What is immortality? Immortality is to give up the chance to enter the reincarnation cycle and fight for this life at the cost of immortality. He suddenly understood the meaning of immortal Emperor Zido's Tao hymn. Death is like the extinguishing of a lamp, and reincarnation blows and reignites. The death of an immortal is like the scattering of one's thoughts. This life will never come back. If an immortal dies, this life will never come back. On the surface, Mu Weiliang was dead. However, her soul was still there. Therefore, she was not really dead. Therefore, she still had a chance to be resurrected. Lightning Emperor Tai Su was dead. His death was too thorough. His body was dead, his soul was destroyed and his Tao vanished. He could never be resurrected in this life, and had no chance of reincarnation. Originally, he had the chance to be reborn. However, in order to save Ning Fan, he destroyed his own Tao. Lightning Emperor Tai Su saved me with his life that day. I actually didn't know about it. Ning Fan closed his eyes in disappointment. Those who have attained the third step of Tao cultivation are called saints. They are situated in the third ring of the heavenly Tao. I don't know about the life and death of a saint. However, I have heard the revered one of the world saying, all forms are fabricated. If all forms are not real, then one would see Tathagata. From this point of view, the saint realm should already be a realm where life is neither life nor death. It is an indescribable and mysterious realm that I don't know. As soon as Jin Chan finished speaking, he smiled and looked at Ning Fan quietly. He had said all these. If Ning Fan understood it, then he understood it. If he didn't, then he didn't. Nothing in this world could be forced. Will the fourth step of Tao cultivation fall under the fourth ring of the heavenly Tao? Will they die? Which ring of the heavenly Tao does Zhu Huo belong to? Jin Chan's eyes suddenly turned solemn. Then he revealed a thoughtful expression. He did not know if the fourth ring of the heavenly Tao really existed. However, he vaguely felt that he seemed to have sensed the existence of the fourth ring of the heavenly Tao before. He seemed to remember that his eldest disciple, Wukong, was not the same person as the Wukong in his memory. When Ning Fan asked this question, this strange feeling surged into his heart. Whether the fourth ring of the heavenly Tao exists or not, I don't know. I also don't know which ring of the heavenly Tao does Zhu Huo belong to. Jin Chan sighed. Is that so? Ning Fan looked at the candle in a daze. Jin Chan also looked at the candle. Just like that, the two of them kept looking at the candle until it burned out. The sky brightened up. On the next day, Jin Chan and his disciple bid farewell to Ning Fan, and continued their journey to the west. As for Ning Fan, he stayed in the Ning family village. He did not break through the second tribulation of life and death. He remembered who he was. He could obviously break through the tribulation, but he was unwilling to do so. During the day, he stood on a tall mountain outside the Ning family village, watching the changes of the wind and clouds, the alternation of the sun and the moon, the withering of the plants. At night, he also stood on the tall mountain, watching the moon set, the cries of the crows and the movement of the stars. Hong Er and Xiao Er also stood behind Ning Fan blankly. Each of their eyes revealed a gaze that seemed to understand life and death. They vaguely remembered that they did not seem to have the obligation to serve Ning Fan in bed. However, in name, they were obviously Ning Fan's wives. It did not seem to be inappropriate for them to have sex with him. They vaguely remembered that they were also pursuing the Tao of life and death. However, they could not remember who they were. 10 years. 100 years. 1,000 years. The three of them still stood on the tall mountain. As for the Ning family village, it was unknown how many generations of people had changed. Ning Fan had seen the life and death of mortals, and the withering of plants. However, he gradually felt that he could not see through life and death anymore. However, the Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit had increased by another 500, making a total of 2,220. Is it time for the next tribulation? Ning Fan sighed. He lifted his finger, intending to break this piece of heaven and earth. Seeing Ning Fan lift his finger, Xiao Er suddenly revealed a reluctant look. Hong Er's blood-red eyes flickered slightly. She was also reluctant to part with him. Are you going to leave, husband? You're leaving? Both of them asked almost at the same time. Yes. Before I leave, I should leave behind some souvenirs. Xiao Er suddenly revealed a cunning look. Souvenirs? What souvenirs? Before Ning Fan could react, Xiao Er had already pushed him to the top of the mountain. Hong Er, on the other hand, had already begun to undress, revealing her graceful body under the moonlight. She leaned on Ning Fan's body and caressed it. Souvenirs. What could be more unforgettable than a night of pleasure? If it's just an illusory realm during the tribulation, forget it. Ning Fan turned around and pressed the two of them down. The second tribulation of life and death was still broken. Heaven and earth regained their clarity. Ning Fan appeared in an unfamiliar giant city. The spiritual qi here was several thousand times denser than in the rain world. The speed of cultivation in this place was unimaginable to ordinary people. In the sky of this place, there were countless extremely terrifying rays of light flying past. Ning Fan's eyes swept across the place. Most of the people here were immortals. Where is this place? Ning Fan asked himself. He even saw existences who were comparable to immortal emperors among those people. This time he remembered that he was Ning Fan. However, he did not know where this place was and why the cultivators here had such terrifying cultivation bases. Dong! All of a sudden, the sound of a bell resounded across the sky. Countless immortals immediately became excited. The immortal sovereign is going to preach the Tao. Let's hurry to the great overarching heaven. Many cultivators whose cultivation base had yet to reach the second step sighed. Sigh. Cultivators at the first step like us can't enter the great overarching heaven. When will we have the chance to listen to the immortal sovereign's Tao preach? Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then, he walked towards a cultivator, who was at the fourth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, and cupped his fists. Fellow Taoist, may I know where this place is? When the cultivator at the fourth heavenly layer saw Ning Fan's cultivation base at the sixth heavenly layer, he felt a little admiration for him. However, when he heard Ning Fan's silly question, he immediately said disdainfully, could it be that fellow Taoist made a mistake in your cultivation and damaged your sea of consciousness? You don't even know where this place is. I have indeed damaged my sea of consciousness. My memory is a little messed up. Ning Fan said, feeling a little speechless. I see. When it comes to cultivation, one mustn't be eager for instant benefits. You need to cultivate step by step in order to reach the peak. After giving Ning Fan some advice, he continued. This is the Zido Immortal Domain. It used to be the Ziwei Immortal Domain, and the Beidou Immortal Domain. There were endless wars and massacres. Immortal Emperor Ziwei and Immortal Emperor Beidou were both fourth-step experts. Both of them were extremely strong. However, an expert appeared later on, and killed the two immortal emperors alone. He single-handedly eliminated the two immortal sovereigns alone. With just a finger, he defeated all the immortal emperors of 1 billion worlds and put down the rebellions of two great immortal domains, unifying 1 billion worlds. He is immortal sovereign Zido. When he thought of this, the cultivator could not help but reveal a delighted and fascinated expression. Ever since immortal sovereign Zido guarded the ancient immortal domain and forbade killing, no one in 1 billion worlds dared to disrespect him. In the current world of cultivation, no one dared to kill others and rob them of their treasures. No one dared to violate the moral code and kill their own kin. No one dared to bully men and take advantage of women. Even immortal emperors did not dare to bully first-step cultivators. It was because Zido did not allow it. No one could do what he did not allow. Otherwise they would die. He used the slaughter of a single person to bring peace to 1 billion worlds. In the Zido immortal domain, there was not much difference between immortals and mortals. There was also not much difference between mortals and livestock. Tigers could not eat humans and humans could not eat livestock. Everyone had a Tao in their heart. Even mortals could prolong their lives. Ningfan's eyes widened. The atmosphere of cultivation in the Zido immortal domain was beyond Ningfan's imagination, who lived in a chaotic world. Killing others and robbing their treasures, massacring sects and exterminating entire clans were almost common occurrences in the era that Ningfan lived in. No one could change the entire world. Zido was the only one. He used the slaughter of a single person to pacify the world. Ningfan felt a trace of hot blood flowing through his heart. It was a feeling that he had never felt before. If it's possible, if there's even a trace of possibility, I can also be like Zido and use the slaughter of a single person to pacify the world and create a cultivation world that I yearn for. This thought only rose in his mind for a moment before it was erased from his heart. He then revealed a bitter smile. The reason why no one disobeyed Zido's order was because he was strong. Zido could kill 2 immortal sovereigns on his own. Even if the immortal emperors of 1 billion worlds joined forces, they would not be a match for him. He just used a finger to defeat all the immortal emperors of 1 billion worlds. That kind of strength was beyond Ningfan's imagination. Without such strength, who would obey his order? Ningfan shook his head helplessly. His strength was weak, and he had already exhausted all his strength to protect himself. Pacifying the world was probably just a dream. When Ningfan was sighing, the 4 cultivators had already left. However, a slightly reproachful voice entered Ningfan's ears from behind. How will you know the outcome of everything in this world if you don't try? A man can grow old and his strength can decline, but his heart cannot die and his ideals cannot be extinguished. This voice was so familiar that it made Ningfan turn his head abruptly. He saw a young man who was dressed in purple robes and had an elegant demeanor standing behind Ningfan. He was slightly frowning at him. That young man had long hair that flowed like a waterfall. His appearance was handsome, and there was a purplish-golden mark of stone flame on his glabella. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes as if he had lived for too long and had been lonely for too long. As soon as Ningfan saw him, his eyes widened. He immediately bowed deeply and said respectfully, "Teacher." This purple-robed young man was none other than immortal sovereign Zido. After hearing Ningfan address him in such a manner, Zido's frown eased. He reached out his hand and patted Ningfan's shoulder. "You've grown up. You've also begun to transcend the life and death tribulation. Not bad." As soon as he finished speaking, Zido let out a faint sigh. Zido Immortal Domain isn't a place you should know about right now. It's still too early for you to learn the secrets of this place. Let's go to another place. Zido flicked his sleeve. A purplish-golden wind blew past and carried the 2 of them across countless worlds in an instant. They appeared in a small village with beautiful scenery. The place was filled with cattail grass that withered and flourished with each passing year. Shouldn't teacher be preaching the Tao in the great overarching heaven right now? Ningfan asked doubtfully. Let them wait. In my heart, you are more important than them. Sit down. I know you're comprehending life and death. With my cultivation base, I can directly help you comprehend life and death. However, the life and death that you'll comprehend might not be compatible with your Tao. I've reincarnated for 10,000 lifetimes, and I only entered the devil barrier in one of my reincarnations. That's why I am who I am today. In that life, I had a teacher who taught me a principle. The Tao can be Tao, but it is not the Tao. The true Tao is indescribable. You sought the Tao amidst the life and death tribulation and fell behind. After hearing these words, Ningfan felt as if he was suddenly enlightened. Emoji's words made a lot of sense while Jin Chan's words were even more profound and unfathomable. However, Ningfan still felt that something was missing. Now he understood. They had spoken of the Tao of life and death, but the true great Tao was indescribable. If he could say it, then it wouldn't be the true Tao. He could only be considered to be close to the Tao. In the end, he was still lacking by a bit. I know you have countless questions in your heart, but I can't give you an answer to your questions. You can only search for the answer yourself. Zido smiled at Ningfan and pointed at the cattail grass beneath his feet. Do you want to learn how to weave the Great Tao from me? Weaving the Great Tao. Ningfan's eyes widened. Weaving the Great Tao was the creation of the rules of heaven and earth. Could such a thing be learned? Yes, there is nothing in this world that is impossible. It just depends on whether you are willing to do it or not. It was ridiculous for an ordinary youth to try to change the world. However, if it's me, I can truly rewrite everything in this world. Do you have any ideals in your heart? Ideals? I don't think so. Ningfan smiled self-mockingly. He had already exhausted all of his strength to protect himself. How could he have any ideals? You will have them. When I was your age, I was just a demon devil who slaughtered without restraint. One day, you will have your own opinion about the cultivation world. Zido remained silent for a moment. Then he flicked his sleeves and plucked some cattail grass from the ground. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to weave a grass ring. Although he was just weaving a grass ring, it gave Ningfan the feeling that he was weaving the heavenly Tao. No, the grass ring in Zido's hands was the heavenly Tao. After a long time, the grass ring was completed. Zido waved his hand and the grass ring soared into the sky, turning into a massive black and white ring shadow. This is life and death. As soon as he finished speaking, the shadow of the ring gradually disappeared. Zido stood up and gave Ningfan a deep look. Then he turned around and left. He did not give any advice, but the scene of him weaving the grass ring was better than thousands of words. As long as Ningfan weaves the grass ring like Zido did, there would come a day when he would have a basic understanding of life and death. Looking at the gradually fading shadow of the ring in the sky, Ningfan seemed to have understood something. However, he also felt that there was a barrier that prevented him from comprehending it. He suddenly woke up from his dream and thought of something. Looking at Zido's back, he suddenly asked, "Teacher, are you alive or dead now?" Zido stopped walking and sighed. You still asked this question in the end. So what if I'm alive or dead? Regardless of whether I'm alive or dead, I will do what I have to do. He suddenly turned around and looked at Ningfan calmly. However, there was an aura force that could make 1 billion worlds tremble in fear. As long as I'm alive, all living beings are alive. Zido's body swayed and he disappeared without a trace. The third life and death tribulation gradually began to collapse. Ningfan's heart, which had been cold for a long time, was once again filled with hot blood. As long as I'm alive, all living beings are alive. What kind of heroic spirit was that? Only the overlord of 1 billion worlds could say that. Suddenly, Ningfan felt a little sad. He felt that Zido's back was very bleak. After overcoming the third stage of the life and death tribulation, the number of Tao marks of life and death on Ningfan's primordial spirit increased by another 500, making a total of 2,720 Tao marks. At this moment, he could barely take a step between life and death. However, he was still a little short of truly stepping on life and death. The purple sun seal on the left side of his face was slowly disappearing. Only then did Ningfan notice that when Zido waved his hand to summon the shadow of the ring, it had also helped him remove the seal within his body. The seal gradually disappeared. The power of the purple sun spread out from Ningfan's body and condensed into a purple pearl in front of him. It was shining with the radiance of the sun. This was the crystallization of the power of the purple sun. If he swallowed this violet sun crystal, he could make up for the third yang on the yin-yang tablet. But if he did that, then there would be 3 yang and 1 yin. Yin and yang would be completely out of balance. He could only wait until his second yin was complete before devouring the violet sun crystal. Ningfan kept the purple sun crystal. At the moment when the life and death tribulation collapsed, his consciousness returned to the outside world. On the ice bed, Ningfan opened his eyes and gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi. The triple tribulation of life and death was indeed a great opportunity. With that, he could leave the stone room. Just as he was thinking about this, his face suddenly turned pale. At this moment, his clothes were completely undone. The clothes of little Demonis and Hong Yi were also scattered all over the place. The bodies of the three of them were intertwined with each other. Their bodies were extremely ambiguous. Little Demoness was still in a deep sleep. Her slender arms were tightly wrapped around Ningfan's neck, and her head was nestled in his arms. As for Hong Yi, she placed her proud snowy peaks on Ningfan's back. Her delicate body was pressed tightly against Ningfan's back. The soft feeling almost made Ningfan lose control of his mind. How could this be? Could it be that what happened in the second life and death tribulation wasn't fake? When I was going through the tribulation with the two ladies, Ningfan's expression relaxed a little when he felt that their primordial yin was still present on their abdomen. It seems like I didn't destroy their chastity. However, since they had already slept together like this, their chastity no longer seemed to exist anymore. At this moment, little Demoness slowly opened her eyes. Hong Yi also opened her eyes in a daze. As soon as she saw them hugging each other naked, little Demoness trembled with anger, while Hong Yi's blood-red eyes were frighteningly cold. Little Fanfan, no matter how much I like you, you can't do this when I'm asleep. Ningfan, even though I'm your companion, I have no obligation to serve you. You've crossed the line. Ningfan was unable to explain himself. He smiled bitterly. Do you still remember Ning Laokai, Hong Er and Xiao Er? I think our current situation is related to what happened at that time. Little Demoness was petrified by Ningfan's words while Hong Yi revealed a look of disbelief. Hong Er, Xiao Er. You also dreamt of it? Both of them asked at the same time. As soon as the question was asked, both of them understood. It wasn't a wet dream that they had alone. It was a wet dream that the three of them had together. Even Hong Yi blushed when she thought of the countless times of pleasure they had in their dreams, let alone little Demoness. The atmosphere was extremely awkward for a moment. Put on your clothes first. Ningfan suggested and got up from little Demoness' arms. Accidentally, his left hand touched little Demoness' breasts while his right hand touched Hong Yi's smooth abdomen. In an instant, little Demoness' face turned as red as a persimmon. Black-bellied, cunning disguise. She couldn't remember anything. There was also a strange feeling that flowed through her body like an electric current, reminding her of the scenes in her dreams. Hong Yi's delicate body trembled. She gritted her teeth, but she couldn't say a word. What exactly happened in that dream? Explain it to me. Hong Yi gritted her teeth and said, "That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."